In our world, some things are simply considered junk. For one young man, junk becomes his entire reality when he is transported to another world, gifted a strange and seemingly useless power, the skill to collect it. But what this new world discards is sometimes far from useless. Holding a dark, jagged sword, his heart hammers in his chest, realizing this piece of junk is more powerful than anything he could have imagined. A single, unblinking eye stares back at him from the hilt, and he can't help but wonder who would ever throw away something so obviously dangerous. A new adventure is about to begin, an adventure built from the discarded things no one else wants, and he will soon show them all the power of junk. But our story begins earlier, in a rowdy tavern, where the leader of his party, a man named Kenichi, tells him he's fired. His face drains of color, pure shock and disbelief twisting his features. Standing alone, he asks Kenichi what he means, but his former friends just continue their feast, refusing to even look his way. For half a year, this group of 7 was hailed as heroes, summoned to this world to defeat a great evil and protect its people. But now, the tavern patrons whisper and point, mocking him and wondering how such a joke could have ever been part of the hero's party. Kenichi just laughs, cruelly suggesting he use his garbage-picking skill to help himself. But Hirotaka's fists clench in frustration. With a serious look, he decides to show them. He reaches out his hand. A bright, sparkling light begins to gather in his open palm. It grows brighter and brighter, swirling into a perfect, glowing circle. With a soft shimmer, a small glass bottle appears from thin air. This is his skill, junk collection, an ability that randomly collects one abandoned item from anywhere in the world. Once every 12 hours, Ichi and the woman beside him stare back and is utterly bored. The other people in the tavern look on, completely unimpressed. Hirotaka holds up the bottle, trying to force a smile as he announces it's a healing potion. A good find this time, but his words are met with a roar of laughter from the entire tavern. Kenichi sneers, telling him the potion is worthless since they already have a healer and it would sell for barely anything. He continues his insults, saying it's embarrassing for a 32-year-old man to be taken care of by people younger than him. Hirotaka finally snaps, shouting back that in this world his body and his mind are now that of a 17-year-old. No one listens. The insults keep coming, calling him useless, a disgrace, a burden, as plates and forks are thrown at him. He stands frozen, his eyes wide with hurt and shock. He looks around at the jeering faces, weakly protesting that they don't have to be so cruel. But his sadness hardens into anger, and he grits his teeth, declaring that he doesn't want to be in a place like this anyway. As he turns to leave, Kenichi calls out one last time, demanding he return the equipment the party gave him. Hirotaka freezes, his face falling into shadow, utterly speechless. Kenichi glares at him, his eyes cold and unforgiving. Clinging to the only things that are truly his, Hirotaka grabs his bags of collected junk, shouting that he will never hand them over. He is thrown from the tavern, tumbling down the steps as his precious junk scatters around him. From the ground, he points an accusing finger at the closed door, yelling that they aren't heroes at all, just people who want to live in luxury. Inside, the laughter continues, his words completely ignored. Alone on the street, he tugs at his hair in pure, agonizing frustration. He sits on the cold stones, surrounded by his bags, and quietly admits to himself that maybe they were right. Maybe he is useless. His mind flashes back to his old life, to his job as a junk collector, where unwanted things were a part of his everyday world. He remembers one day, after loading up his truck, thinking the job was done, but then he notices a small, lonely teddy bear left behind on the edge of the truck bed. He carries the bear back to the front door, telling the mother it must have been mixed in with the junk by mistake. She barely even looks at it, simply telling him they don't need it anymore and that he can throw it away with the rest. Inside, her little girl is already hugging a brand new toy, the old bear completely forgotten. He stands there holding the unwanted stuffed animal, a profound sadness washing over him. He drives away, leaving the little bear to sit alone on the back of the truck, truly abandoned. Back in the present, he thinks about how lonely that bear must have felt, and wonders if he's strange for feeling the exact same way. He slumps to the ground, surrounded by his bags, completely lost and unsure of what to do now. Night falls on the unfamiliar city. He is all alone, abandoned by everyone he knew in this strange new world. He has no money, no equipment, and all he owns is this small bag of junk. A small, bitter smile crosses his face. His situation is so hopeless, it's almost funny. But then, something inside him shifts. A quiet determination begins to burn in his eyes. Looking up at the stars, he decides that self-pity is useless. It's time to show this world the skills of a former junk collector. He opens one of his bags, spilling its contents onto the cobblestones. He sits on the quiet street and begins to carefully sort through the broken pieces and scraps of metal, his old instincts taking over. He picks up a worn metal gauntlet, noticing the dents and scratches that cover its surface. He imagines the adventurer who once wore it, wondering about the incredible sights they must have seen and the battles they must have fought. Holding the gauntlet, he examines the faint old bloodstains that mar the metal. He knows that even if an object is discarded, even if it grows old and loses its shape, the memories and the history of the people who used it can never truly be erased. This is why he loves junk. A genuine smile finally appears on his face. Despite the mockery from his former friends, he is truly glad to have his junk collection skill. The sun rises, casting a warm, hopeful light over the town. With a new sense of purpose, he makes his way to a small shop. Holding his bags of sorted materials, he walks inside, politely announcing that he has some items to sell. A large, strong-looking shopkeeper greets him, and Hirotaka feels a flutter of nervousness, hoping the man will see some value in his goods. The shopkeeper takes one of the bags, his expression becoming serious as he looks inside. Hirotaka's heart sinks as he braces for rejection, imagining the man will refuse to buy his garbage. He begins to speak passionately, insisting that just because something is called garbage doesn't mean it has no value. But the shopkeeper isn't listening. He pulls out a piece of armor and asks if Hirotaka disassembled it himself. Hirotaka quietly confirms that he did, explaining that he thought it would be easier to reuse the old materials that way. The shopkeeper looks genuinely impressed, remarking that it takes a great deal of skill and knowledge to disassemble armor so cleanly. He compliments Hirotaka on his careful work, and Hirotaka sheepishly admits that mentally he's actually 32 years old. Impressed by his craftsmanship, the shopkeeper offers him a generous price, 6 silver coins. Hirotaka's face lights up with pure, uncontainable joy as he thanks the man with all his heart. He walks out of the shop, standing tall in the street with a newfound sense of confidence. He watches the townspeople go about their day, a new, exciting idea beginning to form in his mind. He realizes that maybe, just maybe, he could be happy living as a junk collector in this world. A life of leisure, with no bosses and no quotas. He might even be better at it here than he ever was before. But his excitement quickly fades as a hard reality sets in. Later, sitting alone in a forest, he sighs, realizing he can't make a living when his skill only works once every 12 hours. His hope begins to waver again as he wonders if his skill, and by extension, himself, truly is as useless as everyone says. Deciding he needs another source of income, he begins to forage for medicinal herbs he can sell in town. As he gathers some plants, a soft rustling in the bushes catches his attention. A tiny, fluffy white creature that looks like a mouse peeks out from the leaves. A happy smile spreads across his face. The little creature is adorable, but his smile vanishes in an instant as the single mouse is joined by a massive horde of monstrous rats with razor-sharp teeth. He lets out a blood-curdling scream and runs for his life. As he flees, he remembers that he always left the fighting to the others in the hero's party, completely forgetting how dangerous this world can be. Unarmed and terrified, he frantically tries to think of what to do. Just as a monster lunges, a sudden realization hits him. He skids to a stop and spins around, thrusting his hand forward. It's perfect timing. His skill is ready to be used again. He squeezes his eyes shut, desperately wishing for any kind of weapon, even a rusty old sword. He calls upon his skill, junk collection, pouring all his desperation into a single plea for a weapon. Dark, shadowy energy suddenly swirls around his outstretched hand. The dark power erupts from the ground before him in a great, violent burst. He watches in stunned silence as the shadows twist and gather. The swirling darkness begins to form the shape of a blade. It solidifies in his palm, the handle wrapping around his hand like living tentacles. When the energy fades, he is holding a wicked-looking dark dagger. He stares at the impossible weapon, his mind racing, wondering what in the world it is. But there's no time to think. The monstrous rats surround him, their sharp teeth and glowing eyes fixed on their prey. With a terrified yell, he squeezes his eyes shut and swings the new dagger wildly. The weapon moves with impossible speed, a blur of dark energy that slices through several of the monsters in a single motion. The creatures fall to the ground defeated as he stands in the clearing, breathing heavily but unharmed. The remaining rats, terrified by the dagger's power, squeak and scurry away into the safety of the woods. Hirotaka lets out a huge sigh of relief, his body trembling. He's safe. He looks down at the weapon in his hand, amazed that it cut through the monsters so easily. Despite being a piece of discarded junk, he stares at the strange, almost living design of the dagger. If this is what this world considers junk, he wonders what other incredible things are out there, just waiting to be found. A grateful smile spreads across his face as he thanks the dagger for saving his life, even if it is just an object. He holds it tightly, admiring its strange and wonderfully creepy appearance. Looking at the defeated monsters, he remembers that adventurers can sell materials from the creatures they defeat. His eyes sparkle with excitement at the thought of finally making some real money. Feeling incredibly lucky, he happily begins to gather his unexpected bounty. But a sudden, high-pitched scream from deeper in the forest startles him. He stands and looks toward the sound, realizing someone is in desperate trouble. He panics, his first thought to run and find an adult for help. Then he remembers. With his 32-year-old mind, he is the adult here. He runs toward the scream and finds a young girl facing a gigantic, ferocious bear, bravely telling the monster to stay back. She trembles with fear but tries to stand her ground, threatening to use magic if it takes another step. Her eyes are wide with pure terror, reflecting the monstrous beast before her. The monster roars and charges, ignoring her completely. She lets out a scream, but just in the nick of time, Hirotaka leaps between them, blocking the bear's massive claws with his small dagger. The girl looks up at him, her expression a mix of shock and pure relief. He gives her a quick, reassuring smile, thankful that he made it in time. The impact of the attack is immense. The force of the blow sends him flying backward through the air. He crashes hard onto the forest floor, groaning in pain. The terrifying bear now turns its full attention to him, and he realizes that a bear in this world is on a whole different level of dangerous. The girl watches in horror as the monster looms over her rescuer. The beast takes a heavy, thundering step toward him. Lying on his back and looking up, Hirotaka knows he is in serious trouble. The girl knows she has to do something. She has to help him. She raises her staff, pointing it at the bear, preparing to cast a spell. Her staff begins to glow, but as she tries to speak the magic words, her voice stammers and fails her. Panic seizes her, her breath catching in her throat, her mind unable to focus. Despair washes over her as she remembers it's always like this. Whenever someone needs her, she freezes. She thinks of all the times she has failed in the past, unable to help her teacher or even her sick grandfather. Convinced she is completely useless, she believes they are both going to die, and it's all her fault. But from the ground, Hirotaka tells her not to worry. He pushes himself to his feet and says he'll take care of this. The girl looks at him, completely surprised by his unwavering determination. Instead of his dagger, he grabs a thick, sturdy tree root from the ground. He thinks to himself that this is much better than a small knife. With a powerful shout, he rips the entire root from the earth, wielding it like a giant club. He glares at the bear, telling it not to underestimate the strength he built from years of hard work. He charges forward and swings the heavy root, shouting that the bear will pay for knocking him down. The root slams into the bear's side with incredible force. The monster's eye twitches, but the attack barely seems to affect it. With a low growl, the bear stands its ground, its thick fur having absorbed the blow. Hirotaka grits his teeth. His plan didn't work. He needs a new one. He switches back to his dagger and dashes in close, looking for a weak spot. He plunges the dagger straight into the monster's glowing eye, but the blade doesn't go deep enough. He realizes the wound is too shallow. He knows he is at a huge disadvantage. Defeating a beast this large with just a knife seems impossible. He feels a flash of frustration, wishing he had a weapon with a longer reach. Just as he thinks it, the dagger in his hand begins to pulse with a strange energy. He watches in shock as the weapon starts to change shape right in his hand. The dark, organic material of the handle stretches and grows, lengthening the blade. His eyes widen in disbelief. The knife is transforming into a full-sized sword. When the transformation completes, the hilt is now covered in eerie, unblinking eyes that all seem to be staring directly at him. The enraged bear roars and lunges forward, not giving him a moment to react. He instinctively raises the strange new sword to defend himself. He swings with all his might, bringing the blade down on the charging monster. The sword slices through the massive bear as if it were made of nothing. The monster is cut cleanly in two, its halves falling to the ground on either side of him. The girl stands frozen a short distance away, her mouth open in absolute astonishment. She can only whisper a single word: amazing. Hirotaka looks at the transformed sword in his hand, just as stunned as she is. He can't believe it. He defeated that monster with just one swing. He stares at the weapon, realizing it can change its shape, is impossibly sharp, and feels like it's watching him. A shiver runs down his spine. What is this incredibly powerful and dangerous sword? But his fear is quickly replaced by pure, childish excitement as he runs around in circles, shouting about how cool his new sword is. He stops and holds the sword gently, asking it, "What in the world are you?" In response, a puff of black smoke drifts from the blade. The smoke gathers in the air before him, not disappearing. It forms a dark cloud filled with glowing, mysterious symbols. He squints, trying to read the floating text, but he doesn't fully understand the language. He manages to make out just two words: demon sword. Just then, the girl approaches him and bows deeply, thanking him for saving her life. He quickly holds up a hand, telling her it was okay and apologizing that she got caught in the middle of it. He smiles, his face showing genuine kindness as he says he's just happy he could help. The girl looks up, her expression still filled with worry and shame. She offers to heal his wounds, explaining that she is a cleric. She holds up her staff, which begins to glow with a faint, gentle light. She starts to chant a prayer for her healing magic, but her voice falters and she stumbles over the words. She tries again, but the words just won't come out right. Her nervousness is getting the better of her body trembling. Her eyes swirl with dizziness as she struggles to focus her mind. With a final, desperate effort, she tries to force the spell out, but it's no use. She breaks down, starting to cry and apologize as Hirotaka watches with concern. Through her tears, she admits that she feels useless, a cleric who can't even use healing magic when it counts. She lowers her head, expecting him to agree with her, while Hirotaka listens quietly. She stands there, trembling, feeling completely and utterly worthless. But Hirotaka surprises her, suddenly asking if she could try casting the healing spell on him one more time. The girl looks up, confused. He tells her that he understands why she gets so nervous and blames herself. He explains that it's because she has a strong desire to be useful to others and meet their expectations. He smiles and tells her that her genuine wish to help him is already the best medicine he could ever receive. He encourages her, saying it's perfectly okay if she fails, but he just wants her to try again. A single tear traces a path down her cheek. His words, "It's okay, even if you fail," echoing in her heart. Hirotaka watches her with a kind, patient smile, admitting softly that no one had ever said anything so kind to him before, either. Taking a deep breath, Lisa's hands tighten around her staff, his words giving her a new sense of determination. She stands tall and begins to chant the prayer for healing, her voice clear and steady this time. Hirotaka watches her, a gentle and encouraging smile on his face. With her eyes full of hope, she finishes the spell, asking her god to ease his suffering. It works. A soft, warm light envelops Hirotaka as the healing spell is successfully cast. He looks at his hand as a warm, tingling sensation spreads through him, his cuts and bruises vanishing. He playfully holds up his perfectly healed hand, exclaiming how smooth his skin is, and Lisa gasps, whispering in disbelief, "I did it!" Hirotaka's eyes sparkle with pride for her, telling her that she can do anything when she truly tries. He gives her a big, happy smile and congratulates her on her success. Lise blushes, her heart fluttering with a mix of relief and happiness she hasn't felt in a long time. He raises his hand for a high five, and with a bright, confident smile, she meets his hand with her own. A huge, radiant smile lights up her entire face. She is truly happy. Watching her, he can't help but smile too, thinking to himself that her joy is cute. Now that the danger has passed, he realizes they haven't been properly introduced, so he turns to her and asks for her name. In the quiet of the forest, she tells him her name is Lise. He replies, "I'm Hirotaka. It's nice to meet you." Lise, feeling more comfortable now, looks at the strange weapon in his hand and asks him about it. He casually explains that it's called the demon sword Osoro, just some strong junk he found, but her face goes pale with shock. Her voice trembles as she asks if he is really the owner of a demon sword. Her eyes widen as she reveals a shocking truth. In this world, possessing a demon sword is proof that you are a demon king. Far away, in a dark and twisted land, stands a massive, evil castle. Inside, a powerful figure demands to know how one of his subordinates could have lost their demon sword. Another demon laughs, mocking the demon king of sloth, while a nervous voice warns someone named Sir Gisela to be careful not to anger Lord Tristan. A small, horned girl, Gisela, nervously insists that she didn't lose the sword. It was stolen from her. Lord Tristan, a tall and muscular man with wild red hair, looms over the terrified Gisela. His presence is terrifying, radiating immense and suffocating power. He speaks of the pride of demon kings, who are meant to be stronger and freer than anyone else in the world. He then grabs her head, his voice cold and sharp, telling her that a weakling who allows their sword to be stolen is no demon king at all. His eye glows with intense fury as he gives her a single, simple command: "Go find it." With a mighty heave, he throws her from the castle tower, his voice booming as he calls her a garbage demon king. As Gisela soars through the dark sky, she grumbles to herself about how much of a bother this all is. Far from the castle, she shouts into the wind, wondering who could have possibly stolen her precious demon sword, Osoro. Her expression twists with rage as she vows to kill whoever took it. Back in the peaceful town, Lise quietly processes everything she has just learned. As they walk, she recounts the story. Hirotaka had found a legendary demon sword simply by chance, using his junk collection skill. She breathes a sigh of relief, concluding that someone as kind as Hirotaka couldn't possibly be a real demon king. Hirotaka, however, is lost in thought, the words demon king echoing in his mind. He remembers the very reason he was brought to this world, to join the other heroes and defeat the 7 demon kings who threaten this world's order. He turns to Lise and asks a simple question: "Are the demon kings really that bad?" Her expression becomes serious as she tells him they are far worse than just bad, with one of them having once destroyed an entire nation. He looks at Osoro, now understanding that the demon kings gain their incredible power by making a contract with a magic sword like this one. A small, mischievous smile appears on his face as he thinks that if the hero's job is to fight demon kings, it was probably for the best that he was kicked out of their party. As they continue on their way, Lise looks at him with a worried expression. She asks him what he plans to do with the demon sword now that he knows of its terrifying nature. She can't help but imagine the sword's dark power, which is said to grant the deepest and often evil desires of its wielder. Hirotaka looks down at the sword, a thoughtful expression on his face, and tells her he has made his decision. He smiles warmly and declares, "I'm going to take good care of this guy." Lise stares at him, completely surprised. Take care of a demon sword? Hirotaka remembers how the sword had appeared to save him, not once, but twice, when he was completely alone. He holds the sword up proudly, announcing that Osoro is more than just a weapon to him. It's his partner. Lise looks at him, her heart filled with pure admiration. She thinks to herself that he is a truly amazing person, taking a weapon known only for evil and treating it with such kindness. Inspired by his unique way of seeing the world, she wonders if maybe she could change for the better, too. She speaks up, offering what she can, telling him that she can use healing magic and has a vast knowledge of herbs and spells. With a deep blush and her hands clenched with nervous energy, she asks him if he would please allow her to become his companion. She gets a bit carried away, shouting that she would do anything for him if he agreed. Hirotaka responds immediately and bluntly, "No way." Lise is so shocked she can't speak. He explains that her offer to do anything is wrong, because companions are equals who are supposed to help each other. He points a thumb at his chest and tells her that for their partnership to work, she will have to rely on him just as much as he relies on her. He then adds with a sheepish grin that he's currently unemployed and his skill isn't very impressive, so she might be disappointed. Lisa quickly reaches out and takes his hand in hers. She looks him in the eyes and says that isn't true at all, believing his junk collection skill is kind and wonderful because it finds and values things that other people have carelessly thrown away. Her smile is full of genuine admiration. He is completely caught off guard by her heartfelt words, and a faint blush appears on his face. He gently squeezes her hand, accepting her as his first true companion. With a shy smile, he thanks her, feeling a warmth that has nothing to do with magic. Suddenly, a new voice cuts in. A cheerful girl with cat ears and glasses appears out of nowhere, pointing at Hirotaka and shouting, "Unemployed!" Before he can react, she grabs him by the shirt and starts dragging him away, excited that she has found someone without a job. He yells in confusion, asking who she is and where she's taking him, while Lise looks on in shock. The cat girl is surprisingly strong, dragging him down the street with ease as she happily tells him to come this way. She comes to a sudden stop, announcing, "We've arrived," leaving Hirotaka face down on the ground. She spreads her arms wide and proudly welcomes them to her adventurers' guild, the White Cat's Mistletoe. She introduces herself as Rona, the guildmaster, receptionist, and official poster girl for the guild. She presents a membership registration form with a flourish, offering Hirotaka a chance to become an adventurer if he's looking for work. Rona poses cheerfully, clearly very proud of her little guild. In this world, a guild is an organization where adventurers can accept quests from people to earn a living. Hirotaka and Lise look at the small, quiet building, both of them a little confused. They step inside and are greeted by an empty room. There are no other adventurers, no noise, and no activity at all. He notices how empty it is and asks if they actually get any quests. Rona confidently replies that they get them in droves. He presses her, asking exactly how many quests in droves is. An awkward silence fills the room as Rona can't come up with an answer. To change the subject, she quickly makes another offer. If they register to join her guild right now, she'll let them stay in a room on the second floor for free. Rona puffs out her chest proudly, admitting that they have plenty of spare rooms because no one else is there. She pushes again, asking Mr. Unemployed what he thinks of her offer, and he sighs, reminding her that his name is Hirotaka. He thinks about it for a moment. He has a companion, a powerful weapon, and now a place to live and work. He looks at Rona and says, "All right, I'll register." Rona suddenly bursts into fake tears, dramatically calling him a heartless vagabond for making her wait. Hirotaka just deadpans, remarking on how energetic she is. Lise turns to Hirotaka, asking if he's really sure about joining such a rundown guild. He looks around the simple but clean room, telling her that while the guild is old, it's well-maintained, and having a place to live is a huge help. He smiles at Rona, saying he can tell the guild is important to her, which is why she's trying so hard to recruit them. He finishes by saying that any place cherished and cared for by someone is a good place to be. Rona is so touched by his kind words that she is left completely speechless. A huge, beaming smile spreads across her face, and she thanks him with all her heart. Her sweet expression quickly turns mischievous, and she playfully warns him that there's no backing out now, or she'll draw embarrassing pictures of him and post them all over town. A few moments later, the paperwork is complete. Rona hands them their official membership cards. Hirotaka turns to Lise, apologizing for making the decision for both of them, but she smiles and says that if it was what he decided, then she agrees completely. Rona hears Lise's name and pauses, a curious look on her face. She taps her chin, thoughtfully murmuring that the name Lise sounds familiar for some reason. Hirotaka looks down at his new adventurer's card, which reads, Hirotaka Hirota. A small, hopeful smile forms on his lips. An adventurer, huh? He thinks to himself. He clenches his fists, feeling a new wave of excitement. He knows he couldn't have made it this far alone, but now, with Osoro and Lisa by his side, he is ready for whatever comes next. As Rona looks over Lisa's registration form, her eyes suddenly go wide with shock. She stares at the paper. Name. Skill. Blessing of shock. Rona gasps, exclaiming that she finally remembers where she had heard that name before. Lise looks terrified, clutching her staff as Rona connects the dots between her powerful skill and her famous last name. Rona points dramatically at Lise, revealing that she is the daughter of Lord Montaigne, the ruler of their town. Lisa quickly lunges forward to cover Rona's mouth. Panicked, Lise tries to explain that she is only a trainee cleric on a simple training journey, as Rona realizes she has stumbled upon a huge secret. Rona understands and promises to keep Lisa's identity a secret at the guild. Lise quietly apologizes for the trouble, but Rona's mind is already racing, seeing this as a golden opportunity to get guild funding or even have their taxes lowered. Pushing her scheming thoughts aside, she cheerfully asks her two new recruits what they will name their adventurer party. Hirotaka looks at her, surprised by the question. A party name? Rona explains that most adventurers choose names that show what they stand for, giving a few examples. Hirotaka jokingly suggests a name that would give them a good work-life balance, with 3 days off every week, while Rona imagines him working tirelessly for her guild. He continues his joke, shouting out slogans about workers' rights, leaving Lise completely speechless. Then, Lise shyly offers a suggestion. The Junketeers, explaining that Hirotaka's kindness made her feel like even a useless person could try their best. Hirotaka and Rona both turn to look at her. Lise blushes deeply, feeling a bit embarrassed for speaking up. She becomes flustered and waves her hands, immediately apologizing and asking them to forget she said anything. But Hirotaka's face lights up with a huge, happy grin. He thinks the name is perfect. He stands tall and makes a grand announcement. The newest adventurer party of the White Cat's Mistletoe Guild, the Junketeers, is officially formed. With a confident thumbs up, he declares that they will show the world their junk spirit. Lise looks at him with a warm, gentle smile, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Rona gets fired up, telling Hirotaka that the very fate of her guild now rests on his shoulders. Hirotaka rolls up his sleeves, getting excited, and declares that they have to do their best on the quests to cover their living expenses. Starting tomorrow, their first day as an official party is about to begin. The next morning, a bright sun rises over the mountains, shining down on the town. It is a beautiful day at the guild, perfect for a fresh start. Inside, Hirotaka gathers his new teammates, telling them it's time to do their daily ritual. He holds out his hand and shouts, activating his junk collection skill. Rona watches with interest, admitting she has never heard of such a skill before. Lise excitedly explains to Rona that it's an incredible skill that can summon rare and amazing items. Hirotaka is optimistic, hoping to get another fantastic item like his demon sword. The three of them huddle together, their faces filled with eager anticipation as his hand begins to glow. With a little pop, a new item appears from a puff of smoke. He is left holding a small pair of frilly white underwear. He stares at the unexpected item, his expression completely frozen in disappointment. Lise and Rona both blush furiously, stunned into silence. He quickly tries to explain that he has no control over what the skill brings him, waving his hands in a panic. As he shakes the underwear, something small and folded slips out from inside it. A dirty, worn piece of parchment flutters down toward the wooden floor. Lise notices it fall and bends down to pick it up, wondering what it could be. Hirotaka and Rona crowd around her to get a better look. When Lise unfolds it, they all gasp. It looks like a treasure map. Lise recognizes the location, explaining that the map shows the tomb of a legendary magician named Cain. She holds the map up for them to see, pointing to a big X that marks where the treasure is hidden. Hirotaka stares at the map, the word treasure echoing in his mind. He imagines a huge, sparkling chest overflowing with gold and jewels. His eyes light up with adventure. He declares that they have to go on a treasure hunt immediately. Rona anxiously reminds him that they are supposed to be doing guild quests. He cleverly reasons that if they find the treasure, they can use it to help promote the guild, and she can't argue with that. She reluctantly agrees, but tells him to prioritize his life over the treasure, while also making it very clear he has to find it. Lise brings up a good point, warning that the tomb is probably protected by monsters. Hirotaka notices the dark stains on the map are dried blood, suggesting the previous owner ran into trouble. But he isn't discouraged, confidently telling them that with Osoro's power and Lisa's support, they will be fine. His mind is made up, his face set with determination. With a powerful thumbs up, he announces their first official quest, a journey to Eureka Valley to find the treasure. And so, their adventure begins, as they travel out of town and into the wilderness, heading for the legendary tomb. When they finally arrive, they stop in their tracks, completely amazed by the sight before them. Carved into the face of a massive cliff is a stone entrance so large and grand it looks more like a gateway to a lost city. As they step inside, the sheer scale of the place takes their breath away, and Hirotaka feels more confident than ever that real treasure awaits. Lise notices the new, custom-made leather sheath Hirotaka has for Osoro, keeping the powerful sword safely at his side. He explains with a proud smile that he had it specially made, because it's important to take good care of his partner. He pats the sheath and playfully asks Osoro if it's happy with its new home, But his cheerful moment is cut short as a massive, horrifying monster made of bones appears from the shadows behind him. A giant skeleton warrior, armed with a sword carved from bone, looms over them. Lise and Hirotaka both scream in terror at the sight of the monster. Hirotaka tries to stay calm, telling himself it's just a monster and not a ghost, but Lise insists that this is no time for jokes. The skeleton raises its weapon, ready to strike them down. Without a moment's hesitation, Hirotaka draws Osoro and charges forward. In a flash of movement, he swings his sword and the skeleton monster shatters into hundreds of pieces. Lise watches in awe as the bones clatter to the stone floor, defeated in an instant. She praises him for his amazing skill, and he shoots her back a cool peace sign. Just then, a strange, dark energy begins to swirl around Osoro's blade. The dark smoke forms into glowing letters once again. He reads the floating text and discovers that his sword has learned a new skill. Undead Attribute Bestowal. Lise has never heard of such a skill, guessing from the name that it has the power to turn its target into an undead creature. They both wonder what the purpose of such a strange skill could be. Hirotaka shrugs, deciding it's probably a useless skill that they will never need. Osoro, however, reveals that it has another new skill called Longsword, pleased that Hirotaka is so perceptive. With a loud metallic sound, the sword begins to transform, growing longer and thicker into a massive, jagged greatsword. The hilt of the sword morphs into the shape of a terrifying dragon skull, and both Hirotaka and Lise are amazed at its powerful new form. Hirotaka struggles to lift the giant weapon, joking that his sword is having a growth spurt. He thinks to himself that if Osoro is going to keep getting bigger, he'll have to start working out to keep up. Suddenly, a calm female voice echoes from the darkness, telling him there's no need for that. Hirotaka and Lise freeze, startled by the unexpected voice. The voice continues, a shadowy hand reaching out from the darkness, declaring that their journey ends here. Hirotaka senses a new enemy as Lise cries out a warning, just as a brilliant flash of magic lights up the dark corridor. The light is blinding. A woman with long dark hair and pointed ears emerges, wearing nothing but torn, leafy clothes. She points at Hirotaka and demands that the Demon King of Sloth surrender. Both Hirotaka and Lise are completely stunned, not only by the sudden attack, but by the woman's strange appearance. The mysterious woman repeats her demand, her eyes glowing with power. The three of them stand facing each other in the ancient tomb, the air thick with tension. Lise nervously whispers to Hirotaka, asking if this woman is another monster, but he isn't quite sure how to answer. The woman decides to introduce herself. She announces that her name is Rachel, and that she is an elf on a quest to defeat the Demon King. Her intense gaze falls upon the massive sword in Hirotaka's hands, recognizing it as a magic sword. She immediately jumps to a conclusion, pointing at him and shouting that possessing a magic sword makes him the Demon King. Panicking, Hirotaka holds up his adventurer's license, trying to prove that they are just harmless, newly registered adventurers. But Rachel isn't listening. She begins chanting a high-level fire spell, calling upon the great fire spirit to lend her its power. Lisa's face goes pale with fear. She recognizes the advanced magic chant and realizes this elf is an incredibly powerful magician. With her spell fully charged, Rachel's eyes narrow as she commands her magic to destroy the fools standing before her. Hirotaka stands frozen, bracing for the blast of fire that is about to be unleashed. But just as she is about to finish her powerful spell, she suddenly wobbles, and the fireball fizzles into nothing. To everyone's surprise, the mighty elf collapses, landing face first on the stone floor. She lies there, completely still. With her face still pressed to the ground, she weakly mumbles that she is so hungry she can't move, leaving Hirotaka and Lise utterly bewildered. The grand ancient tomb is filled with a moment of very awkward silence. A little while later, the three of them sit on the floor as Rachel gratefully eats the food they've shared with her, apologizing for attacking them. Hirotaka grumbles that he tried to tell her they weren't demon kings. While munching on bread, Rachel admits that while she didn't find the Demon King, finding a magic sword is still a great discovery. Curious, Hirotaka asks her about her quest. Her expression turns grim as she explains that the Demon Kings cause endless destruction, and someone has to be the one to stop them. Hirotaka realizes this is the second time today he's been caught up in the conflict with the Demon Kings. Soon, Rachel is surrounded by all of their provisions, eating everything in sight, and he shouts in disbelief. He holds up his now empty backpack, crying out that she even ate all the expensive snacks he had bought for himself. Lisa explains that eating is a key way for magicians to recover their mana, and Rachel's huge appetite means she must have an incredible amount of it. Lisa is amazed by her power, but Hirataka still seems a bit doubtful. Rachel gives them a smug look, saying she knows they're impressed by her vast supply of mana. Lisa suddenly gasps, wondering if Rachel might be a blood relative of the legendary magician Kyan. Rachel proudly explains her very distant connection, and Hirataka bluntly points out that this means they aren't related at all. To further prove her skill, she adds that she's also a former S-rank adventurer, and he wishes she had led with that information. He then asks a logical question: if she's so powerful, where are her companions? Her mood instantly sours as she explains that her party disbanded and she is a former adventurer, coldly stating that weak people would only die following her. She looks away and declares that for her dangerous journey, she doesn't need any companions. Hirotaka and Lise look at each other, sensing she is hiding a painful memory. She warns them to turn back and give up their treasure hunt. She explains that incredibly powerful monsters are lurking deeper inside the tomb. She reveals that one of these monsters stole all of her equipment, which is why she is forced to wear tattered rags. He finally understands, admitting that he had thought she was just some kind of pervert. She leaps to her feet, furious, yelling that it wasn't her choice. She had been humiliated. Lise and Hirotaka are both shocked by her strong reaction. She shudders as she recalls how the monster captured her and with its dry, undead hands stripped away her clothes. Before she can continue with the graphic details, Hirotaka lunges forward and covers her mouth, yelling that her story is not appropriate for children. She pulls away, pouting, and comments that he is quite harsh for someone with such a cute face. Lise tries to be positive, remarking that it's amazing she managed to escape such a terrifying situation. Hirotaka gives her a confident smile, telling her not to worry. He holds up Osoro, boasting that his sword is far more terrifying than any monster. Rachel completely ignores him, asking what special abilities the magic sword has. She explains that she's heard there are only 7 magic swords in the world, each with legendary power. He tells her what he knows so far. The sword seems to absorb the abilities of enemies it defeats. Her eyes widen as she understands. The sword grows stronger with every battle it wins. She slowly begins to reach for the sword. She stands up, her face now serious, and he senses a change in her mood. A painful memory flashes through her mind. A village, destroyed, people crying out for help. She remembers her younger self screaming in terror, unable to do anything to save them. She had been known as a genius magician, and fighting should have been her duty. But she had frozen and stood alone in the ruins of her home. She blamed herself, believing everyone died because she was too afraid to fight. Her purpose became clear. She had to fight and defeat the Demon King. She believed that if she couldn't fulfill this duty, her life had no meaning. With this conviction burning in her heart, she knows she can't just ignore a powerful demon sword. She reaches for Osoro, her eyes filled with a terrifying resolve, and declares that she will destroy the wicked abomination. Hirotaka flinches, shocked by her sudden turn. She threatens him, telling him to hand over the sword unless he wants this adventure to be his very last. His eyes widen with genuine fear. He instinctively pulls Osoro back, clutching it tightly to his chest. He looks her straight in the eye and shouts, "No!" Her expression turns to ice. She begins chanting another spell, this time calling upon the great water spirit. Hirotaka panics, realizing she is about to attack again. As she finishes her spell, he grabs Lisa and yells for her to run. She unleashes her magic, sending a swirling torrent of water hurtling towards them. She names the spell Water Arrow. Hirotaka dives to the side, pulling Lise with him just as the water blast slams into the wall. They tumble across the floor, narrowly avoiding the powerful attack. He looks back, his heart pounding. The spell has blown a massive hole in the ancient stone wall, creating a thick cloud of dust and steam. He yells to Lise, asking if she's okay to run, and she quickly nods yes. Together they scramble to their feet and run deeper into the dark corridors of the tomb. Rachel stands silently in the dissipating steam, watching them go. Her face is cold and unmoving, her determination unwavering. Further inside the tomb, they finally stop to catch their breath. They look around, realizing they have run quite far into the ruins. He notes that the smokescreen from her attack gave them a chance to escape, and decides they should find a place to hide. But as he turns, his eyes land on something completely bizarre. Sitting in the middle of the large empty chamber is a giant, glistening piece of roasted meat. Forgetting all about the danger, he starts drooling, finding the sudden appearance of a giant meal strangely romantic. Lise snaps him out of it, pointing out that fresh food in a monster-filled tomb has to be a trap. He comes to his senses and confidently agrees, saying that surely no one would be foolish enough to fall for such an obvious trick. Just then, Rachel appears, and without a second thought, leaps onto the giant piece of meat. He is speechless, unable to believe she has gotten ahead of them and is now happily feasting on the suspicious food. Suddenly, a bright flash of lightning erupts from the meat. Her eyes shoot open in surprise as she is zapped by the magical trap. She is thrown into the air as the entire piece of meat explodes in a shower of sparks. Hirotaka and Lise can only stare in shock, wondering what is happening now. When the smoke clears, the giant meal is gone. Rachel lands on her feet and turns to face them, her expression deadly serious as she tells them to get ready. With a sharp look in her eyes, she declares a temporary truce. Hirotaka is completely confused by her sudden change of heart. A massive, hulking shadow emerges from the darkness, and she identifies it as the very monster that stole her clothes. He stares, his eyes wide with shock and a little bit of fear. The monster steps into the light, revealing itself to be a wight, a terrifying, undead creature in rotting robes. Lise explains that a wight is a powerful magician brought back from the dead through forbidden necromancy. Rachel warns them to be extremely careful, as the wight can use powerful magic. She then turns her anger on the wight, furiously accusing it of using cowardly illusion magic to trick her twice. With a determined cry, she declares that she is taking her equipment back. All three of them brace themselves as the wight prepares a massive magical attack. A wave of powerful energy washes over them, forcing them to shield themselves. Lise worries that even Rachel might not stand a chance, but Hirotaka sees a small opening, realizing this might be their only chance. Another bolt of energy shoots from the white staff. The magic strikes Rachel directly, and she screams in pain as she is engulfed in a blinding flash of light. Hirotaka screams her name in terror, watching helplessly as the magic engulfs her. When the light fades, she is kneeling on the ground, seemingly unharmed but weak, and he can't believe she survived. The wight seems confused, looking down at its hands, wondering why its magic didn't work. She struggles to stay upright, muttering that the situation is bad as he rushes to her side. Annoyed with herself, she explains that the wight's robe has a special power that cancels out magic, and he yells at her for forgetting such an important detail. With its magic useless, the wight raises its staff, preparing to strike her down. Just as it swings, the wight's own body begins to crackle with electrical energy. The magic robe, having absorbed her attack, is now releasing the stored energy back at its wearer. Seeing an opening, Hirotaka leaps over Rachel and swings his massive sword with all his might. She watches in shock as he moves to protect her. He brings the sword down hard, gasping for breath from the terrifyingly close call. The wight is sliced in two, its bones and tattered robe falling to the ground, and he apologizes for accidentally cutting up her equipment. She stares at him, completely stunned, and asks him why he saved her. She reminds him that she had just attacked him and that it was her duty, and hers alone, to defeat this monster. She insists that he has nothing to do with her fight, but he simply turns back to her and says that her duty has nothing to do with it. He smiles kindly and reminds her that since they had agreed to a temporary truce, that makes them comrades, and he would always help a comrade. She is speechless, his simple act of kindness catching her completely off guard. Their victory is short-lived as the pieces of the wight begin to stir behind them. Rachel gasps in shock. Lise cries out in terror. The severed halves of the wight begin to crawl back together, its bones magically knitting themselves back into one piece. Lise can't believe it, stuttering that no healing magic should be powerful enough to mend a body that had been cut in half. The wight has completely resurrected itself, as if the attack had never happened. Taka shouts in frustration, saying it's basically cheating for a monster to be unable to die. A new idea sparks in his mind. Not dying, he thinks. Lise, terrified, tells him that they have no chance of winning and should run, but he shakes his head. A look of fierce determination crosses his face as he tells her, "We can win." He holds his sword at the ready, a plan forming in his mind. He remembers Osoro's strange new skill. It could both grant and remove the undead attribute, and he realizes he can make the wight mortal. The wight begins to gather another massive ball of magical energy. Rachel warns him that charging in now is reckless, believing an amateur like him would be destroyed before he could even get close. But Hirotaka stands firm, his resolve unshaken. He turns to Lise and Rachel and tells them to stay back where it is safe. Rachel watches him, her expression a mix of disbelief and confusion. She can't understand why he would risk his life for her, someone who had just tried to kill him. Lise explains that it's just the kind of person he is. He can't stand by and watch someone in trouble without helping. Osoro pulses with a faint glow, ready for battle. Lise quickly casts a spell on him, a magic buff to increase his defense, and he thanks her as a protective aura surrounds him. With his new protection, he charges forward. As Rachel watches him run headfirst into danger, her own painful past comes flooding back. She remembers her former companions, who had praised her for her growing strength. They had relied on her to protect them, but then they had abandoned her. They told her that her quest to fight the Demon King was too much for them, that they only wanted an easy life. They left her all alone, telling her that such a dangerous duty was a job for a genius like her. And so she had accepted it, believing it was her duty to fight alone. She had convinced herself that if everyone's duties were different, they couldn't be together. The White's magic is now fully charged, ready to be unleashed. Hirotaka flinches, seeing the immense power gathering before him. But just as the White is about to attack, Rachel takes a stand. He shouts at her, asking what she is doing, warning her that she'll run out of mana and collapse again. She simply smiles, reminding him of his own words. "We're comrades now." If that is true, she declares, then she has to help. A powerful burst of light erupts from the tomb. A voice seems to echo in her mind, encouraging her to blow away her past and her trauma, and to finally let her true power bloom. She unleashes a massive wave of anti-magic energy. The force of her spell is so great that it tears up the stone floor around her. The White's attack is completely swallowed by her magic and disappears. Lise watches in awe, amazed by her incredible power, but her eyes widen in alarm as she sees what happens next. Rachel's magic is so strong that it doesn't just stop the White's spell, it also disintegrates the magic nullifying robe. Lise can't believe that her power has overwhelmed the robe's special ability. Rachel's spell fades, and she stands exhausted, steam rising from her body. She has used up almost all of her mana in that one incredible burst. The White is now completely defenseless, its most powerful protections gone. She looks at Hirotaka, her expression weak but trusting, and tells him she is counting on him now. With a fierce battle cry, he leaps toward the stunned monster, his sword held high. He channels Osoro's power, shouting the name of its skill. Undead attribute removal! The world seems to slow down as he brings the sword down on the White. He swings with all his might, pouring every bit of his determination into the attack. The White begins to crumble, its skull starting to turn to dust. Its entire body dissolves into a cloud of black ash. The three of them stand in the now quiet chamber as the last remnants of the White fade away. He stares at the empty space, breathing heavily, and cautiously asks if they really did it this time. Then, the reality of their victory hits them, and they shout in celebration, relieved and overjoyed that the terrifying battle is finally over. He remembers that Rachel had been hurt and asks Lise if she can heal her. Lisa stands between them, and a gentle, healing light envelops Rachel. Rachel opens her eyes, her strength slowly returning. Now that the fight is over, she looks at him and says that before they end their truce, she has one question. She asks why he didn't let go of the magic sword, even after she had attacked him for it. He smiles and hugs the hilt of his sword, answering simply, "Because it's my companion." A small, gentle smile appears on her face, her heart touched by his answer. She makes a decision and tells him she will let him keep the magic sword. But in exchange, she looks him directly in the eyes and asks him to help her defeat the Demon King. Hirotaka and Lise are both completely shocked by her unexpected proposal. He starts to refuse, but she holds up a hand to stop him. She laughs, saying she knows he's the type of person who just wants to live an easy life without any trouble. She tells him she will wait for him to change his mind, but her confident smile quickly fades. She looks down, her voice now quiet and hesitant, and shyly asks if, until he decides, she can still be his companion. He smiles warmly and holds out his hand, telling her, "Of course," as she quietly thanks him. As he welcomes her, he playfully pats her on the head, and she warns him that if he ever uses the sword for evil, she will destroy it. He grins and agrees to her terms. She then adds that she doesn't think a lazy person like him would have any evil desires anyway. He remembers what she had called him during their fight and asks her why she called him the Demon King of Sloth. She explains that it wasn't an insult but a real title. She tells them that each of the 7 demon kings has a title based on one of their strongest characteristics, like wrath or greed. She then points at him with a teasing grin and says that, among all the titles, Sloth seems to fit him the best. Now that the battle is over, Hitaka cheerfully suggests they get back to their original mission, the treasure hunt. Rachel, who had missed that part of the conversation, looks confused by the mention of treasure. She shakes her head, telling them she already explored the entire tomb and there is no treasure anywhere. He holds up the worn map in disbelief, realizing it must be a fake. She sighed, admitting that the map was a scam she had bought from a shady adventurer in a tavern. She then looks at him, a question dawning on her as she asks why he has her map. His mind races as the horrifying truth hits him. The fake map was Rachel's, and it had fallen out of the panties his skill had collected. The realization is too much for him. He slowly pulls the frilly white underwear from his pouch. These belong to Rachel. She looks at him, completely puzzled, and asks what's wrong. He quickly hides the evidence, his face burning with embarrassment, and mumbles that it's nothing. When they return to the White Cat's mistletoe, Rona is devastated to hear there was no treasure. She cries that her plan to promote the guild is ruined while Hirataka looks on, completely exhausted. He tries to cheer her up, announcing that while they didn't find any treasure, something even better happened. Rachel walks through the door, now wearing a beautiful new set of clothes as he proudly introduces their new companion. She looks at her new outfit and comments that she quite likes it. He apologizes that they couldn't afford stronger equipment, but she tells him it's fine. She explains that the whole ordeal has taught her she needs to become strong enough to win without relying on her equipment. He finishes his introduction, telling Rona that Rachel is a former S-rank adventurer, and Rona's jaw drops. Overjoyed, Rona grabs Rachel's hands, welcoming her to the guild and calling her their savior. Rachel smiles gracefully, happy to have found a new home. Rona is completely starstruck by the beautiful and powerful elf. Her mind races again, realizing an S-rank adventurer is a priceless treasure for promoting the guild. With their party now complete, Hirataka officially welcomes Rachel to the Junketeers. He turns to Laze, asking if she thinks it's a good name, and she agrees that it has a nice, "we're doing our best" feel to it. Rachel gives a small, approving smirk. Lise looks on, feeling a sense of belonging she had never felt before. Hirataka lets out a huge sigh of relief, suddenly feeling very tired after all the excitement. Rona agrees and calls it a day, congratulating everyone on their hard work. As Lise is about to head to her room, he calls out to her. He holds out a small, neatly folded item. He explains that after getting things for Rachel and Osoro, he realized he hadn't gotten anything for her, and hands her a pair of white gloves. He shyly explains that since she's always holding her staff, he thought she might worry about her hands getting sweaty when she's nervous. He worries that it was a strange gift and offers to take them back. Her face lights up with pure joy as she exclaims that she wants them, admitting her hands get incredibly sweaty when she's nervous. After wishing her a good night, he goes up to his own room. A few moments later, Lise stands outside his door, her hand raised to knock. She clutches the new gloves to her chest, feeling that she has already received so much from him but has given nothing in return. She remembers all the times she had frozen up during their recent battles, unable to help. Despite trying to use her defensive magic many times, she only succeeded on her very last attempt. She recalls his kind words, telling her it was okay to want to be useful, but she knows that's not it. The truth is, she's simply terrified of disappointing people. A hand had reached out to her when she felt lost. It was him who had accepted her, weaknesses and all, telling her it was okay to fail. And it is because of him that she truly wants to become useful. With a new resolve, she runs to Rachel's room, bursting through the door to ask for help with her magic. She walks in on Rachel, who is fresh from a bath and completely naked. In his room, Hirataka hears the commotion and jokingly asks if they had come to give him a massage. He lets out a small sigh, hoping Rachel isn't causing any weird trouble for Lise. Lying in bed, he stares up at the ceiling. He thinks about how he had felt so alone in this new world, but now he has found trustworthy companions. He looks out his window at the starry night sky and smiles, thinking maybe he really is lucky after all. And so, The Junketeers' daily life begins. They spend their days completing guild quests like fighting off giant rats and taking time to rest and relax back at the guild. Rona is busy at her desk, happily managing the new flow of work. A few days later, Hirotaka wakes up with a big yawn and wishes everyone a good morning. He stops in his tracks, his eyes widening in shock. The once empty guild hall is packed with a huge crowd of adventurers. The wooden floor creaks and groans under the weight of so many people. He looks around, completely bewildered, as the girls wonder what is going on. Rona is frantically trying to keep up with all the new registration paperwork, but she declares that their plan was a huge success. She holds up a flyer she had made, advertising them as the beautiful men and women party that had defeated the boss of Cayenne's tomb. He groans, realizing her flyer has made them famous overnight. Rachel observes that when adventurers become famous, their guild's reputation grows, which brings in more quests. However, not everyone is happy, as two new recruits complain loudly about the false advertising. Hirotaka grumbles, offended that they don't consider him handsome. Just then, a group of serious-looking adventurers approaches him, asking if he's really part of the group that cleared Cain's tomb. He nervously confirms that he is. The adventurers suddenly erupt with excitement, calling him awesome and crowding around him. They bombard him with questions, wanting to know every detail of the battle. Overwhelmed by all the attention, he can barely get a word in. He shouts in surprise, not used to being the center of attention. He tries to explain that he isn't as amazing as they think. Rachel quietly explains to him that exceptional adventurers are often admired by others. The crowd of new adventurers looks at him with stars in their eyes, inspired by his great deed. She tells him that he is the one who has sparked this newfound hope and excitement in their hearts. Lise peeks out from behind a corner, hiding from the crowd. She whispers to herself, amazed and a little scared that their adventure has become such a big deal. One of the adventurers asks what his rank is, guessing he must be A rank or even S rank. He sheepishly admits that he is only in E rank. The entire crowd goes silent, staring at him in disbelief. The mood immediately shifts as they start whispering, finding it suspicious that a low-rank amateur could have accomplished such a feat. Just as the crowd is about to turn on him, Rona leaps in front of them, insisting there is a very deep reason for his low rank. The adventurers pause, their interest piqued. She begins to spin a heroic tale, declaring that an adventurer's true purpose isn't fame or money, but helping people. She then announces that, to meet their expectations, he has finally decided to take the adventurer promotion exam. The crowd erupts in a massive cheer, completely won over by her story. A quick recap shows Hirotaka, persuaded by Rona, reluctantly agreeing to take the exam. The day of the adventurer's exam finally arrives. The test is held at a large official guild called the One-Eyed Bear's Den. An examiner announces that who has passed the morning's written test should come to the reception desk. Two overconfident adventurers brag about how easy the test was, sure that they had passed. A moment later, those same two are shown slumped in defeat, having failed. Hirotaka, Lise, and Rachel walk past them, deciding it's best to just leave them be. Hirotaka holds his breath, waiting for his own results. The three of them burst into a joyous celebration. They have all passed the written test. As Hirotaka and Lise cheer and throw confetti, Rachel looks on with a smug expression, commenting on how easy the test had been. As they celebrate, a frustrating memory flashes through Hirotaka's mind, imagining a ridiculous game show where he angrily blames Rachel for their studying woes. He remembers the struggle of teaching her the most basic math, with Lisa's help, as Rachel daydreams about completely different answers. Lise tries to brighten the mood, nervously suggesting that all their time spent studying together was still fun, wasn't it? But Rachel just smiles with smug confidence, telling Hirotaka that he should reflect on his own efforts instead. Back in the present, he puts the memory aside, sighing with immense relief that somehow all of them managed to pass the written exam. A warm smile crosses his face as he thinks about everyone at the guild, feeling a deep sense of responsibility not to let them down. With their spirits high and the exam behind them, the team steels themselves for the next challenge that awaits after lunch: the practical test. At that very moment, Rona and the other guild members are laughing and celebrating, absolutely certain that Hirotaka's party is already dominating the competition. The scene shifts to a quiet afternoon sky, signaling their journey to the test site. They arrive at the edge of the Nomoris forest, a sprawling woodland that now serves as the venue for their practical exam. An instructor stands before the group of hopefuls, explaining that their primary mission is to carry vital supplies to a base hidden deep within the woods. But he reveals there's a catch. To pass, they must also defeat 3 monsters along the way and gather 2 different types of medicinal herbs. Hirotaka and Lise exchange a look of sudden recognition. This forest is all too familiar. A flood of memories rushes back for both of them. For Lise, it's where Hirotaka saved her, and for Hirotaka, it's where Osoro first revealed its power. He can't help but smile at the thought, feeling a strange sense of nostalgia for a danger they survived not so long ago. Rachel turns to Lise, confirming that this is indeed the very place where she was once attacked by monsters. With a surprising moment of sincerity, Rachel praises Hirotaka and his sword for saving a promising young magician that day, causing a flustered Lise to deny that she's anything special. Rachel continues, genuinely impressed that even with all the quests and studying, Lise never once neglected her own magical training. She gently pats Lise on the head, admitting that, as a fellow magician, she finds that dedication truly admirable. Lise's eyes well up with tears, completely overwhelmed to receive such heartfelt praise from the powerful elf she looks up to. But Rachel ruins the touching moment with a crude joke, earning a swift chop to the head from an exasperated Hirotaka. Without warning, the other teams bolt. They charge into the forest. Hirotaka stares, shocked by their eagerness. One of the adventurers stops, confused, and asks his friend why he isn't joining the famous party from the White Cat's mistletoe. The scarred man, Edgar, just grins and reveals that he and his friends are also proud members of their guild. Hirotaka looks around and realizes with a jolt of pride that every adventurer from their guild has come to take the test together. It seems monster activity has been increasing recently, forcing the kingdom to recruit more adventurers as a countermeasure. Rachel grimly notes that this surge in monster activity is likely the very reason Lise was attacked here in the first place. Hirotaka falls silent, his expression turning serious as he thinks about this troubling new information. He recalls the terrifying creatures they've faced, from vicious wolves to the horrifying wight that guarded the tomb. He finds himself wondering why it is that monsters seem to only direct their aggression toward humans. But no one has an answer, for in this world, that is simply an unquestioned and dangerous fact of life. Suddenly, the ground begins to tremble. A violent tremor throws them off balance. Everyone braces themselves. Is this an earthquake? From deep within the woods, adventurers are now sprinting back towards them, screaming in pure terror. Absolute chaos erupts as the entire group begins to panic, desperately trying to understand what's happening. An adventurer gasps, sensing an overwhelming pressure unlike anything he's ever felt before, believing a monstrously strong creature has just appeared. Lise and Hirotaka feel it too, an oppressive wave of magical energy that suffocates the air around them. But Rachel's eyes go wide. She recognizes this power, and she is horrified. Hirotaka instinctively moves to help, but Rachel screams at him, telling him to stop right where he is. A figure emerges from the trees. Only a single, curved black horn is visible. Then, a small demonic wing and a heart-tipped tail come into view. She steps into the clearing, her long hair hiding her face as she calmly says a single word: "No." As she walks, 2 massive beasts simply collapse at her sides, defeated without a fight. Hirotaka and Lise stare in absolute disbelief at the small demonic child who has single-handedly taken down every adventurer in her path. Rachel shouts that they are wrong. This is no child. Her eyes burn with an intense fire of recognition. She knows exactly who this is. Hirotaka looks back at her, confused and alarmed by her sudden, furious reaction. Rachel's voice shakes with rage as she identifies the impossible being standing before them, a demon king. She wastes no time. She immediately launches an attack. The demon king, Gisela, merely sighs, complaining that having to check every single person for what she seeks is a total drag. Her cold, slitted eyes scan the chaos with utter boredom. Rachel watches in utter shock. Her attack was useless. The entire party is frozen in place, their minds unable to process the impossible power before them. Then, Gisela's eyes lock onto something. They fixate on Osoro. In less than a blink, she is there, standing right in front of Hirotaka. Her voice is ice. She has only one demand. "Give it back!" Her cat-like eyes glow with menace as she repeats her command. She lunges for the sword. Rachel moves to intercept, but Gisela doesn't even look at her, simply flicking a finger in her direction. An invisible force erupts, blasting Rachel away as Gisela warns her not to interfere. The powerful elf is sent tumbling across the clearing, completely helpless against the casual display of power. Rachel crashes to the ground. She is in total disbelief. Her strongest anti-magic attack was deflected by a single finger. She stares, horrified by the gap in their strength. Lisa's own defensive spell dissipates into nothing before it can even form. She trembles, realizing she was so paralyzed by fear that she couldn't even see the exchange happen. Gisela now holds Hirotaka by his shirt, dismissing him as a pathetic human not even worth the effort of killing. She releases him and grabs Osoro's hilt, demanding that he return it at once. Hirotaka shouts at her to stop, his hands desperately gripping the sword's sheath. Gisela looks at him with genuine confusion, calling him a thief who has no right to make demands. She reveals her true identity with chilling authority, declaring herself Gisela, the demon king of sloth, and the one true contractor of the magic sword, Osoro. The name echoes in Hirotaka's mind. The demon king of sloth. It all clicks into place. This is Osoro's original master. For a tense moment, they are locked in a struggle, both gripping the sword. But her strength is absolute. She lifts him into the air with one hand. His friends can only scream his name as he is pulled helplessly toward the sky. Hirotaka struggles against her impossible strength, shocked that such a small body can hold so much power. Gisela looks at him with a mix of anger and confusion, demanding to know if he was the one who abandoned Osoro. He realizes she must have sensed his junk collection skill, which must have found the sword after she lost it. A painful thought crosses his mind. Maybe his partner truly belongs with its original owner. Gisela holds out her hand, telling Osoro that it is finally time to go home. With a heavy heart, Hirotaka lets go of the sheath, but the sword doesn't move. It is stuck. Gisela is completely shocked. Hirotaka stares as Osoro's pommel actively clings to the scabbard, refusing to be drawn. The sword is rejecting its former master. It is choosing him. He looks down at his partner, completely stunned by this undeniable act of loyalty. Gisela's expression darkens. A feeling of sickness washes over her. Hirotaka looks up, confused by her sudden, drastic change in mood. Humiliation turns to pure rage. She screams that she will kill every last one of them. An explosive wave of dark energy erupts from her body. Her eyes burn with a terrifying fury as she glares down at him. In response to her killing intent, Osoro begins to writhe in Hirotaka's hand. Dark, living tendrils wrap around the hilt as it begins to transform. A menacing energy fills the air as the sword takes on a new shape. Gisela's eyes widen as she watches the impossible transformation. More eyes sprout from the hilt, all of them glaring with loyalty at Hirotaka. The sword erupts into its true, monstrous form, ready to defend its new master. Gisela can only stare, her face a mask of pure shock and rage. Hirotaka is amazed by the incredible weapon Osoro has become for him. Gisela's face twists with fury as she screams an insult at him. A terrifying shadow forms behind her, promising that the human will not have an easy death. Holding this living weapon, Hirotaka asks his partner if it is truly okay with this choice. Fire ignites in his eyes. He makes his decision. He declares that he will never hand Osoro over. The battle line is drawn, with the furious Demon King facing the boy who now wields her former sword. Hirotaka crouches, pointing the demonic blade forward and bravely echoing her earlier threat. Gisela glares back, her eyes cold and full of malice as she promises him a painful end. Despite the sweat on his brow, his resolve is absolute. He will never give up his partner. She moves faster than sight, a blur of motion. Her claws slash through the air. Hirotaka grits his teeth, bracing for the impact. Her attack is about to land, impossibly fast. He just barely manages to raise Osoro, blocking her hand with the blade. A strange ripple of energy spreads out, as if her power is simply vanishing into thin air. He holds his ground, the sword steady, completely neutralizing her attack. They both stare at each other. Both are completely surprised. He holds his ground, the sword steady, completely neutralizing her attack. Her immense power crackles and fades the moment it makes contact with the blade. Hirotaka strains against the sheer physical force of the blow, but he withstands it. Gisela looks down, her expression shifting from anger to utter confusion. She realizes with a jolt that her power, which could obliterate the entire forest, is completely dissipating upon contact with the sword. She snarls, demanding to know what kind of trick he's using. He reveals the sword's hidden power, a skill called mana break, that completely destroys the magic of anyone it touches. With a surge of newfound confidence, Hirotaka boldly tells the Demon King that her attacks are useless against him. He finally remembers that this was the skill Osoro absorbed from the White, a power he had forgotten until his partner activated it to save his life. But he knows this advantage won't last forever, as Gisela's physical attacks are still incredibly heavy and her mana seems limitless. She falls silent, her brow furrowed as she tries to comprehend this unexpected development. She scoffs in annoyance, unable to believe a mere thief is acting so mighty with a skill she doesn't even recognize. The tense battle suddenly devolves into a childish argument as she accuses him of theft while he insists his skill simply collected a discarded item. The implication hits him like a lightning bolt, and he points at her, shouting that this means she must have thrown Osoro away. Her tough demeanor shatters instantly as she panics, furiously denying that she would ever discard her precious sword. She fumbles for an excuse, admitting that she might have just forgotten where she put it, for a few decades. She continues rambling, trying to save face by insisting she didn't only remember it because the other Demon Kings got angry at her. Rataka yells back, completely exasperated, declaring that forgetting something for that long is exactly the same as throwing it away. Flustered and embarrassed, Gisela resorts to shouting insults, her threats sounding more like a childish tantrum. The two now stand in the clearing, screaming "stupid" at each other like squabbling children. Rachel and Lise can only watch from a distance, completely dumbfounded by the bizarre scene. While Lise questions if this is really a Demon King, Rachel is deeply impressed, believing only Hirotaka could stand on equal footing with such a being. Gisela tries to defend herself, admitting she may have neglected Osoro, but they still had many good times together. A ridiculous memory flashes through her mind of using Osoro as a noodle lid and a very convenient back-scratcher. An awkward silence falls over the clearing as the argument dies down. Her patience finally snaps. She clenches her fist, her expression darkening as she declares that she's had enough. Hirotaka immediately raises his sword, preparing for her next move. But then he hears shouting from the woods, and he turns to see reinforcements arriving. An army of town soldiers, led by Edgar, charges into the clearing with their swords drawn. Rachel and Lise look on with dread, knowing these soldiers are charging toward their doom. Edgar rallies his men, warning them not to be fooled by Gisela's appearance, for she is the monster that took down the other adventurers. The soldiers bravely surround the Demon King, ready to fight together to defend their town. Rachel screams at them to stay back, desperately trying to warn them that a Demon King is an opponent they cannot possibly defeat. The terrifying words ripple through the soldiers' ranks, and murmurs of fear begin to spread. Annoyed by the interruption, Gisela bites her thumb hard enough to draw blood. She begins a dark incantation, offering her own life force to awaken her demonic servants. Swirls of pure darkness erupt around her, forming into massive, shadowy beasts with glowing teeth. Hirotaka can only look on in absolute horror. A swarm of winged, vampiric creatures screeches as they pour out of the darkness. Gisela smiles with pure malice as she gives her new army a single brutal command: slaughter every last human. The demonic horde descends upon the terrified soldiers. They cry out in fear, completely unprepared for such a nightmarish foe. Hirotaka watches helplessly, his face pale with desperation. He screams at the top of his lungs for it to stop, but it's too late. The vampires crash into the soldiers, and the forest fills with the sounds of a one-sided battle. While he's distracted, Gisela sneers, asking if he really has time to look away. She reminds him he's facing a Demon King as she sends a blade of dark energy hurtling towards him. He turns back, but he's too slow to react. Her attack closes in as she warns him that he'll regret not returning her sword. But just before it hits, her eye catches a strange movement on the ground. A tiny, fuzzy black creature with bright eyes pops out of a hole directly in her path. Gisela freezes, her powerful attack stopping midair as she stares in utter confusion. At that very moment, Rachel begins chanting a powerful spell, calling on the spirits of the dead. A surge of magical energy erupts as she casts necromancy, and 3 hulking undead warriors claw their way from the earth. She glares at Gisela, shouting that she won't let the Demon King do as she pleases. Her undead soldiers charge, causing the living soldiers to panic until Rachel yells that they're on their side. At the same time, Lisa finds her courage and begins her own prayer to the Holy Mother Chakra. With a powerful cry, she unleashes a massive protective spell, covering the soldiers in a dome of holy light that shields them from the vampires. She clenches her small fists, a new sense of purpose filling her heart. Rachel watches with fierce pride, vowing that this time, unlike in her past, she will not stand by helplessly. Lise finds her own resolve, her eyes shining with the determination to protect Hirotaka and everyone else. The two girls stand back to back, holding off the horde as they tell Hirotaka to focus on the real enemy. He looks back at them, his heart swelling with pride at how much his companions have grown. One of Rachel's undead warriors lunges at Gisela, wrapping its arms around her and holding her tight. Gisela looks genuinely surprised, noting that necromancy is a forbidden art impossible for a normal magician to wield. Rachel simply smirks, proudly stating that she is, after all, a genius. But she knows that even with her power, she's no match for a true demon king alone. She looks to Hirotaka, her expression filled with a newfound trust. She calls out his name, telling him that together they can win this fight. Stunned by her absolute faith in him, he realizes that now is the time to fight as a true team. His expression hardens into one of pure, unshakable resolve. He thinks back on his simple dream of a carefree life, a dream that seems so distant now. But his path is clear. If anyone dares to harm his companions, he will show no mercy. With a powerful cry, he points Osoro at the captured Demon King and declares that he is going to take her down. Gisela looks up at him, her expression one of genuine surprise. That surprise quickly melts into amusement as she begins to laugh at his foolish bravery. A cruel, confident smile spreads across her face. "Interesting," she says, her voice dangerously calm. She unleashes a shockwave of pure power, completely obliterating the undead creature holding her. Rachel immediately commands her remaining warriors to press the attack and support Hirotaka. The army of the dead charges forward once more. Gisela scoffs dismissively, stating that no number of undead are a match for her. She lashes out with her tail, and a whip of dark energy slices through her undead attackers. The remaining warriors continue their relentless charge, undeterred. She clicks her tongue, annoyed by their persistence, comparing them to a swarm of insects. She narrows her eyes, focusing her power for another devastating attack. But her undead opponents suddenly freeze, looking up in shock and confusion. Gisela looks around, suddenly realizing that Hirotaka is no longer in front of her. "He's gone," she says, her eyes wide with surprise. He's there in an instant, right beside her. He used the chaos as his perfect cover. The Demon King's cat-like eye widens in shock as she finally understands his clever plan. She realizes he blended in with the charging undead warriors, moving through the crowd to sneak into her blind spot while she was focused on the horde. With a fierce and determined grin, Hirotaka shouts that he's got her now. He swings Osoro with every last bit of his strength, but the attack stops dead, blocked by Gisela's long blonde hair, which has wrapped around the blade like a living whip. Blood drips from where the blade managed to sever a few of the impossible strands. Hirotaka's confident expression completely shatters, replaced by one of pure disbelief. Gisela looks at him with a smug, condescending smile, calling him naive. Using her hair, she flings both him and the sword backward across the clearing. She watches him fly through the air with an amused expression, as if he's nothing more than a toy. He crashes hard onto the ground, the brutal impact forcing the air from his lungs. He grits his teeth against the searing pain, his face contorted in agony. But he refuses to give up, digging his boot into the dirt to push himself back to his feet. With a defiant roar, he lunges forward one more time, driving Osoro toward her with all his might. Gisela looks utterly shocked, unable to believe he can still move, let alone attack. Hirotaka screams, channeling all his remaining energy into this one final, desperate thrust. In a stunning exchange, the tip of Osoro's blade pierces Gisela's side, just as her bladed tail stabs deep into Hirotaka's shoulder. It is a decisive strike. The sword is embedded in her chest. Gisela looks down at the blade, her eyes wide with genuine disbelief. Hirotaka strains, pushing the sword deeper, his face a mask of intense pain and effort. She grabs the blade, her expression shifting to one of strange admiration as she admits he is quite something to have actually landed a blow on her. The realization hits him with a jolt. He actually hurt her. Her expression softens slightly as she looks at the boy who did the impossible. A small, gentle smile appears on her face as her body begins to dissolve into particles of light. She chuckles, calling him an interesting fellow. Her body disappears in a swirl of energy, but her voice echoes, promising she will remember his name. The soldiers and adventurers watch in stunned silence as the Demon King turns to dust. A wave of relief and joy washes over them, and mighty cheers erupt as they celebrate their victory. But the hero of the battle stumbles, clutching the bleeding wound in his side. He looks down at his hand, now completely covered in his own blood. Blood trickles from his mouth. The wound is far more serious than it looked. Lise and Rachel rush to his side, their faces etched with panic and worry. Despite the intense pain, he manages a weak, reassuring smile, telling them he's just glad his strength finally gives out. He struggles to ask if Osoro is okay before his head slumps forward. The world fades as he loses consciousness. His friends can only scream his name as he collapses to the ground. The battle is over, but their leader now lies motionless on the forest floor. Rumors of the Demon King's appearance and subsequent defeat fly through the town, but the most incredible rumor of all is that a small group of adventurers was responsible. 3 days later, Lise is overjoyed, her face streaming with happy tears as she shouts for everyone to look. Hirotaka is standing again, though he's annoyed by all the fuss, wondering if she thinks he's a baby taking his first steps. He gently asks Lise to stop crying, but she is completely overcome with emotion. Sobbing, she explains how terrified she was, telling him he was bleeding so much that even her most powerful healing spells couldn't wake him. She confesses how scared she was at the thought of losing him, making him realize just how much his friends truly care. He waves his hands awkwardly, at a loss for how to comfort her. Rona appears, jokingly telling him to say something more clever than baby talk. Rachel just watches the scene with a thoughtful look, wondering if this is some kind of strange role play. The other guild members greet him warmly, relieved that their friend is finally awake after 3 long days. Hirotaka apologizes for worrying Rona, who quickly denies it, claiming she was only thinking about the guild's reputation. Rachel steps forward, her expression serious and sincere as she expresses her own gratitude. She tells him it's a miracle they managed to repel a demon king without a single casualty. She looks him straight in the eye and tells him with genuine admiration that he is really something special. But he looks down, burdened by guilt, insisting it's his fault for refusing to give up Osoro. Edgar immediately cuts him off, taking the blame for calling the soldiers, who were no match for such an enemy. As the others begin to apologize, Rachel steps in, reminding them that no one knew what they were up against, and that they all fought bravely. Lise still looks worried, starting to argue, but then stops. The fear from that day still lingers in her eyes. She clenches her fist and tells Hirotaka that she's glad he didn't give up the magic sword. He is completely surprised by her declaration. She explains that while she was once terrified of Osoro, seeing it as a symbol of demon kings, she now believes with all her heart that the sword is his true partner. With a bright, happy smile, she says she is glad he didn't give up something so important to him. Rachel nods her head, wholeheartedly agreeing with Lisa's sentiment. She gives Hirotaka a warm, knowing smile and tells him that if he was the type to abandon his companions, she never would have followed him. He looks at his 2 friends, completely stunned by their unwavering loyalty. He is moved beyond words, managing only a simple, heartfelt, "Thank you." The other guild members look on, a bit confused by the emotional moment. One of them speaks up, asking about the magic sword, and Hirotaka realizes they don't know Osoro's true identity. After a quick and hushed explanation, the entire guild hall erupts in a collective shout of disbelief. Now in on the secret, the guild members are in absolute awe, begging him to keep the world-class weapon a secret. Rona clears her throat, announcing that she has very important news for Hirotaka. She beams with pride, revealing that because of his incredible achievements in the recent battle, she pulls a party popper, unfurling a banner that declares the Junketeers are being promoted directly to C rank. Taka can barely believe it, as Rona explains that skipping ranks like this is completely unprecedented. She hums happily, overjoyed that the rumors of their victory have caused a flood of new adventurers wanting to join their guild. While Hirotaka is still processing the fact they got promoted without even finishing the exam, Edgar laughs that they should have skipped even more ranks. A flashback shows one of the adventurers giving a wildly exaggerated eyewitness account of the battle. He claims Hirotaka elegantly toyed with the Demon King, causing Hirotaka to sigh at the made-up story. Suddenly, a cloaked figure leans in and whispers that he was actually defeated by her hair. Hirotaka jumps back in terror as the figure pulls back its hood. It's Gisela. She's alive, and she winks at him. A tiny bat familiar lands on his shoulder, whispering a threat to keep quiet. Gisela smiles menacingly, warning him that if he causes a commotion, she might get lazy and kill everyone for real. He is completely terrified, his mind racing to understand why she is here. Edgar notices his strange behavior, but Hirotaka frantically denies that anything is wrong. Gisela turns to him and calmly tells him to follow her. Her expression is serious now. She wants to talk. Sometime later, they are walking through the streets of the town. Gisela is happily munching on some street food, her face sparkling with delight. A bewildered Hirotaka follows, wondering why he's treating a demon king to a meal, as his friends trail behind. After she finishes her snack, Hirotaka finally stops her. He looks at her with a serious expression and asks the question that's been burning in his mind. You didn't die? She scoffs at the ridiculous idea, claiming an attack like his could never kill her, especially since she wasn't even trying. The entire party is stunned into silence, horrified by the true gap in their power. Hirotaka sighs, a feeling of dread washing over him as he admits he had a feeling that was the case. Gisela smirks, intrigued by his reaction. He instinctively places a hand on Osoro, his body tensing for another fight as he asks if she's come to take the sword back. The friendly atmosphere vanishes, replaced by a tense silence as they stare each other down. But Gisela just sighs dramatically, complaining that humans are so quick to pick fights. She tells him that's not it at all. In fact, she has thought of something much better. With a cheerful smile, she makes a shocking proposal. Hirotaka, you become a demon king. He is so stunned he can only manage a confused, huh? Behind him, Rachel and Lizzie are frozen in absolute horror. He demands to know what she's talking about, but she just tells him to listen. She lazily floats in the air, complaining that being a demon king is a pain because people are always challenging her, and the other demon kings get angry if she loses her sword. Her gaze becomes sharp and focused as she looks at him. She pokes him in the chest, declaring that he is surprisingly well suited for the job. She asks if he's ever felt unusually strong, forcing him to recall all the times he's shown surprising power. She explains with a sly smile that Osoro has taken a liking to him and has been secretly enhancing his body. After all, she points out, how else could a mere human have survived her attack? He stands silently, processing this stunning revelation. He glances down at the demon sword at his hip. He finally understands that Osoro has been supporting him all this time. Gisela gets right in his face, offering him the position again. But he immediately shouts, "No!" Lise furiously rejects the offer on his behalf, shouting, "Absolutely not!" She recalls the dark legends she's studied about how contracting with a magic sword twists a person's personality. She trembles with fear, terrified of what would happen to the kind Hirotaka she knows. Gisela just waves off her concerns, saying it only makes you a little more true to your own desires. She continues her sales pitch, promising immense power and the freedom to live as he wishes. The words, "a life of leisure," echo in his mind. He mutters the word freedom, as if in a trance, but he snaps out of it, giving her a light chop on the head and reminding her that she just said being a demon king is a pain. He goes on a frustrated rant, declaring that he'll continue adventuring with Osoro but will never become a demon king. But Gisela stubbornly refuses to leave until he agrees, much to the confusion of his friends. Lisa just looks on, her heart filled with a silent, worried concern. And so the days begin to pass in a strange new stalemate. One day, Rona is at the guild entrance, her jaw dropping in shock. Gisela stands there, cheerfully waving and announcing her arrival like a new employee. A moment later, Hirotaka watches as she is promptly kicked out of the guild. This becomes their strange new routine, with Hirotaka constantly finding Gisela causing trouble. He finds her pestering a terrified Rona. Another time, he has to physically drag her away as she throws a tantrum. Even Rachel gets involved, whacking the lazy demon king with a baguette to get her to move. Hirotaka looks at Osoro, his expression firm. He has made a decision. The days continue to pass under this new, chaotic normal. Several days later, he returns to the guild, letting out a tired but satisfied sigh. Lise and Rachel greet him at the door, welcoming him back. Lise asks if he has gotten used to his new training at the sword dojo. He suddenly strikes a dramatic pose, excitedly announcing his new special move, much to Rachel's unimpressed stare. She reminds him that he's already gained plenty of practical experience from their quests. His expression turns serious as he explains he started training because he finally realized he wasn't as strong as he thought. He glances down at his sword, admitting he never knew that his partner, Osoro, was secretly supporting him. With newfound humility, he admits that without that help, he was just a weak human. He confesses that during the battle, he was terrified because his weakness was putting everyone in danger. He clenches his fist, his eyes burning with a new fire as he declares his need to get stronger. Lise looks at him, her heart touched by his sincere declaration. But a familiar voice pipes up, suggesting the quickest way to get stronger is by becoming a demon king. Hirotaka groans, telling Gisela to give it up already. She appears in the doorway with a flourish, now dressed in a surprisingly cute maid outfit. The entire party stares, their minds completely blown by this latest absurdity. He demands to know what she's wearing, and she just puffs out her chest proudly. A nervous Rona peeks out from behind the door, revealing her plan. She has hired Gisela as a Demon King receptionist to solve their staff shortage and create a massive promotional buzz. He asks Gisela what she's scheming now, but she's too busy admiring how good she looks. She tells him she can be motivated if it leads to a lazy future for herself, and she's brought him the perfect quest. With another cheerful "ta-da!" she holds up a formal document, a joint subjugation request. Hirotaka looks at the paper, confused. A joint subjugation request? Rona explains it's a special request sent to multiple guilds when a monster appears that's too powerful for a single party. With a mischievous grin, Gisela leans in with Rona to announce the target. It's a legendary monster that strikes fear into the hearts of all who hear its name. A dragon. The entire party shouts in unison, "A D-dragon!" They are completely stunned by the impossible news. They discuss just how rare this is, with Lisa explaining dragons are creatures of fairy tales, and Rachel confirming she's never even heard of a dragon hunt. Gisela just smirks, saying that strong dragons make for perfect training opponents. Rona adds that many veteran adventurers will be participating, and the reward is extremely generous. Taka strokes his chin, considering the offer, while Rachel wonders if dragon meat tastes good, much to Lisa's horror. He worries aloud if they'll need to call on the army for backup again. But Lise shakes her head, telling him she doesn't think so. She explains that moving the army without a direct order could provoke political trouble between the lords. Furthermore, she adds, an army's duty is to protect its own town, so they can't be deployed unless there's a direct threat. Hirotaka is amazed by her detailed knowledge of politics, causing a flustered Lise to brush it off. She claims she just happened to hear it somewhere, but her nervous expression says otherwise. A calm, new voice cuts in, questioning her excuse. The mysterious speaker says coolly that of course she would know, since it's about her own home. A handsome, elegantly dressed man with strange markings on his cheek stands at the guild entrance. The team turns around, surprised by the sudden intrusion. "Who?" Hirotaka asks. Lise stares at the man, her face pale with shock as she whispers a single word. "Teacher." Hirotaka is completely lost. "What?" The man's gaze is fixed solely on Lisa as he says he has finally found her. The two of them stare at each other across the room, a heavy silence falling between them. Hirotaka tries to connect the pieces. "Teacher, and your own home?" The man says her full name, revealing her identity to everyone. Lise Montagne. He explains that she is the daughter of the noble family that rules this town, and is destined to become the next court magician. Hirotaka's jaw drops. "A daughter of nobility?" He looks from the man to Lise, finally understanding that the shy cleric in his party is a high-born lady. He asks her why she never told them, but she looks down, too ashamed to answer. The man, Ashen Glow, looks down on them with disdain, remarking that he can't believe she was with people who didn't even know this was Montaigne territory. Rachel bristles at his condescending tone, telling Hirotaka that the man is making fun of them. Hiding behind a post, Rona whispers that the man is the legendary Grey Sage, Ashen Glow, the Montaigne family's court magician. Rona begins to panic, realizing the immense political power now standing in her humble guild, and she worries they could all be crushed. Ashen Glow takes a determined step forward. He looks at Lise, his expression grim and unyielding as he commands her to come back. He tells her she is returning to the Montaigne estate. He reaches out his gloved hand to take her, but before he can touch her, another hand shoots out and grabs his wrist. Hirotaka steps between them, shielding Lisa with his own body. He tells him to wait, his voice firm and protective, saying there's no need to take her by force. Ashen Glow looks at the boy who dared to interfere, his eyes cold and dangerous as Hisks who he is. He dismisses him as an outsider who should stay out of family matters, but Hirotaka stands his ground, declaring that they are not outsiders. Hirotaka plants his feet, becoming a shield between Lise and the stern magician. He declares that they are Lise's companions, and they will not stand by silently while she is taken from them. But the tension shatters when Rachel speaks. She has something vital to announce. She points at Ashen Glow, her voice filled with concern as she asks if he is eating properly. Ashen Glow looks utterly exhausted. Her absurd question is the last thing he wants to hear. His visible eye flashes, pure magic flares to life. Hirotaka's eyes fly wide. He feels the immense, sudden power. Instantly, chains of light erupt from the floor. They bind Hirotaka, holding him fast. He gasps, caught completely off guard. He can't move his hand. His entire body is completely paralyzed. Rachel struggles against her own bonds. Even her incredible power is useless here. Ashen Glow calmly warns them. He tells them not to fight the magic, or they will only hurt themselves. Lise watches in absolute horror. She cries out for her captured friends, her voice choked with fear. In a blur, he is suddenly behind Lise. Hirotaka shouts in alarm. Ashen Glow takes her arm, his cold gaze fixed on her friends as he questions if they truly understand why a noble lady would ever be found in a place like this. Panic washes over Lise's face. Her most guarded secret is about to be revealed. Her voice trembles as she begs her teacher to stop. He ignores her plea, revealing the simple truth. Lise ran away. He continues, his voice heavy with disappointment, as he explains that she abandoned the sacred duty she was born to fulfill. A memory flashes in her mind, showing a small girl standing before the imposing gates of her family estate, burdened with the mission to become the next court magician. She remembers a childhood filled with endless, diligent study, where her serious nature ensured she progressed smoothly until the day she turned 10 years old. The memory darkens, filled with the disembodied eyes and whispering voices of nobles, all of them watching her, their expectations a crushing, suffocating weight. In that moment, young Lise is frozen, her face a mask of pure terror. The pressure was too much, and her immense magic erupted out of control, leaving the great hall of her home in absolute ruins. Back in the present, Ashen Glow explains that after that day, she developed a crippling stage fright, causing her to fail at magic again and again. He looks down at her, his tone sharp with hurt, as he asks if she ever once considered the shame she brought upon him, or upon her own father. Lise can't meet his gaze as she whispers an apology, but he presses on, coldly asking if she must disappoint them even more to be satisfied. She turns to Hirotaka, her shoulders slumped in defeat, confessing that she was never trying to be useful, but was only a coward running from her duty. With tears in her eyes, she finally admits that she has been deceiving them the entire time. Hirotaka stands silently with his back to her, and then lets out a long, quiet sigh. Lisa's voice cracks as she admits how frustrating it is to be so weak. She tells him that since meeting them, she has finally learned about the pain of struggle, but also the joy of being helped by true companions. Hirotaka finally turns, and to her surprise, a soft, understanding smile is on his face as he tells her that running away must have been incredibly painful too. He tells her she did well. Those 3 words strike her to the core. A single tear escapes her eye, carrying with it all the shame she had held inside for so long. Ashen Glow watches this tender moment, his stern expression unreadable. His attention shifts. The time for talk is over. He takes a single step, and the air hums with power as a teleportation spell begins to form. A brilliant magic circle illuminates the floor beneath him and Lise, signaling their imminent departure. Rachel shouts that he's using spatial transfer. Magic. He's taking Lise away. She struggles furiously against her bonds, but the powerful magic holds her fast. The light of the teleportation circle intensifies. The magic feels strange, different from anything they have ever felt. Hirotaka pours all of his strength into breaking free. Ashen Glow glances back, his expression dismissive. He tells them their efforts are pointless. He scoffs, adding that the restraints cannot be broken, especially not by lowly adventurers from such a pathetic guild. The insult strikes a nerve. Hirotaka's teeth grind together in anger. A powerful energy surges through him. He roars, channeling all of his might against the magical chains. A sharp crack echoes through the room. A fracture appears in the glowing magic. Ashen Glow's eye shoots open in disbelief. Impossible. Hirotaka speaks, his voice steady as he acknowledges that he understands Lise has a duty she must return to. But his mind flashes back to the lonely girl who was the very first person to ask to be his companion when he had nothing left. Lise stares at his back, her heart filled with hope. The magical chains continue to crack and splinter under the immense pressure. He spins around, his face a mask of raw emotion, roaring that being with them is her duty too. The magical chains shatter. They explode into pieces of light. Before the light even fades, Hirotaka leaps across the room and pulls Lisa into a protective hug, snatching her away from her teacher. Ashen Glow whispers in pure astonishment. His perfect binding magic was broken. He cannot comprehend how someone could shatter the spell with brute force and not be seriously injured in the process. Hirotaka gives Lise a reassuring, if slightly sweaty, smile, explaining that his body is just a little special. At his hip, the demon sword Osoro glints, revealing the secret source of his mysterious and growing power. He gently releases Lise and asks if she is okay, apologizing for taking matters into his own hands. He looks her in the eyes, realizing that through all of this, no one has actually asked her what she truly wants. Lise looks from Hirotaka to her teacher, a new strength hardening her gaze. Taking a deep breath, she steps forward, positioning herself between the two of them. She faces her teacher not as a frightened child, but as a young woman ready to speak for herself. She begins by respectfully telling him that she is truly grateful for everything he has taught her. She promises that she will return home someday because she has not given up on her dream of becoming a court magician. She pauses, gathering her courage, but not now. "Right now, I want to stay with the Junketeers," she declares, tears of resolve streaming down her face as she explains she can do her best here with them. Ashen Glow looks at her, a strange, unreadable emotion in his eye. He speaks softly, almost to himself, wondering how long it has been since she last expressed her own will so clearly. Lisa's confidence wavers as she asks if she even has the right to say such things after she lied to them all. Rachel smirks, now free from her own bonds. She reminds Lise that she herself once betrayed the party's trust, yet she is still here. Hirotaka puts his hands on his hips and shouts with a huge grin that of course it's fine. His smile is bright and full of acceptance. Rachel offers a warm, encouraging smile of her own. Overwhelmed by their kindness, Lise looks at her friends, fresh tears of pure happiness welling in her eyes. Rachel turns to the court magician, calmly arguing that Lise is making good progress here before casually asking how long he's keeping her restrained. Hirotaka and Rachel comically praise Lisa's skills, with Hirotaka enthusiastically adding that her healing magic even improves your skin condition. Rachel strikes a dramatic pose, having effortlessly broken her bonds, and declares that as a magic genius, her judgment is absolute. Lise is a wonderful magician. Ashen Glow listens to their passionate defense without a word. He turns away slightly, admitting quietly that he knows Lisa's potential better than anyone. He then reveals a stunning secret. As the bearer of the legendary blessing of chakra, Lisa could never possibly lack talent. Rachel's jaw drops in shock. The blessing of chakra is a divine gift from the world of myths. Hirotaka looks confused, admitting it's another thing he doesn't understand, but at least it explains why Lisa's holy magic is so powerful. Ashen Glow explains that his true mission was to nurture that divine talent and guide her to become a full-fledged court magician. The depth of his conviction is clear in his eyes. This was his purpose. However, he says, turning back to face them, his tone shifting, he lays down a challenge. If they are so certain this is the right place for Lisa, then they must prove it. Hirotaka and Lise exchange a confused glance. The mage reminds them of the conversation he overheard when he arrived. He looks them dead in the eye and tells them to take on the dragon subjugation quest and bring him the dragon's head. He sets the conditions. If they fail, or if another party claims the prize first, Lise will return home with him immediately. He adds that it shouldn't be an impossible task for her, and that he cannot leave his student with a party that can't handle such a challenge. Before anyone can object, Hirotaka leans forward, his eyes burning with fire, and roars that they accept the challenge. The three adventurers stand united, their faces a mixture of shock, nervousness, and absolute determination. Ashen Glow studies their resolved expressions for a long moment. He nods, simply saying that he has his answer. He turns away, his body beginning to fade as he activates another teleportation spell. As he disappears, he tells them he will handle matters with the Montaigne family and will return when their task is done. Lise calls out to his fading form. With tears of gratitude, she thanks him for giving her this chance, apologizing for being such a selfish student. For a fleeting moment before he vanishes, a soft, proud smile graces his lips. He has given his student the chance she needed. In a shimmer of light, he is gone. The challenge is set. Hirotaka breaks the silence with a cheerful grin, declaring that they have no choice but to succeed. Rachel smirks, puffing out her chest as she says her arms are itching for action, though her rumbling stomach suggests she may just be hungry. Lise clenches her fists, understanding this is a test for her to finally master the incredible power she was born with. Her eyes widen with a thrilling realization. This is her chance to become strong. With renewed purpose, the three shout together. Their goal is clear. They will claim the dragon's head. From a dark corner of the guild hall, a small, sleepy sound is heard. Gisela, the lazy demon king, sits up from a nap, musing to herself that what started as a boring human drama is suddenly becoming very entertaining. A wicked, fanged smile spreads across her face. She peeks out the window, watching the newly motivated party with keen interest. The adventurers prepare for their greatest challenge yet. Far away, in a land of rugged, towering mountains, another story is unfolding. A massive reptilian eye snaps open. A gargantuan, shadowy form moves against the sky. With incredible speed, the creature soars through the air. It is a magnificent dragon, covered in shimmering scales and a mane of sharp, feather-like fur. The beast flies with power and grace, a true king of the skies. Meanwhile, inside a lavishly decorated guild hall, another group of adventurers receives their assignment. Kenichi the hero taps a wanted poster, announcing to his party that they are going to hunt a dragon. His companions are stunned. A dragon hunt is far more dangerous than the easy jobs they prefer. They immediately start to complain about the difficult journey and the fearsome beast. Kenichi's face darkens as he coldly asks if they have a problem, threatening to kick them out of the party. One teammate snaps back, but Kenichi scoffs, saying he can't be compared to people who just play around. He declares that he will never live his life as a nobody, and he will force everyone to acknowledge his superiority. His thoughts grow bitter. The glory of defeating a demon king was stolen from him. But by who? His face twists in a mask of fury. Whoever it was, he finds it unforgivable. In sharp contrast, Hirotaka smiles brightly, ready to face the future with his real friends. The day of the hunt arrives. In a vast, snowy valley, adventurers from all over have gathered for the great dragon extermination. Hirotaka and his friends look around at the huge crowd of powerful warriors, the whole experience feeling exciting and new. Suddenly, a small, cloaked figure floats beside Hirotaka. It's Gisela. Annoyed, he asks why she followed them. She gives a lazy smile, explaining that dragons are a rare sight, and she simply wanted to watch the show. He stares at her, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. He knows she is up to something. Not far away, a group of burly adventurers are laughing and pointing at someone. They mock the person, calling him a decorative hero who is all for show and no substance. The Junketeers watch the commotion, and Rachel wisely suggests they stay out of it. The target of their insults is Kenichi. One of the men sneers at him, calling the hero dead weight. Hirotaka's eyes widen slightly in recognition. The leader of the rude adventurers steps up to Kenichi, angrily asking who he is calling dead weight before recognizing him. Kenichi looks down on him with utter contempt, insulting the man's intelligence. The adventurer's eye twitches with pure rage. He roars, drawing his sword and lunging forward in a blind fury. With lightning-fast speed, Kenichi draws his own blade and effortlessly blocks the attack. The attacker gasps in shock, unable to believe how easily his strike was stopped. Kenichi coolly states that he has no time to waste on incompetent fools. His eyes flash with a cold, deadly light as he warns the man that if he gets in his way again, he will make him disappear. The intimidated adventurers back away, grumbling that the so-called hero was nowhere to be found when a real demon king attacked the town. Kenichi simply turns his back on them, telling them to go home and stick to the easy jobs they prefer. He and his party walk away, with Kenichi declaring the encounter a complete waste of time. Hirotaka watches his old party, noting that they haven't changed at all, and their reputation has clearly fallen. As they walk, one of Kenichi's teammates clutches his head, complaining about the stressful situation. The others agree, whining that they shouldn't have come and that nobody seems to want them here. Kenichi snaps, angrily telling them it's their weak attitude that makes other adventurers look down on them. Fed up, one of the party members grabs Kenichi by the collar, shouting that he doesn't care what others think. He complains about being dragged on this dangerous mission just because Kenichi thinks their skills are being wasted. Kenichi stares him down with a cold, unyielding gaze. He pushes the hand away and calmly explains that this single quest offers a massive reward, the most efficient way to maintain their lifestyle. From a distance, Hirotaka continues to watch the tense scene unfold. Rachel comes to his side, asking if he knows them and noting the obvious tension. He explains that they are his former companions, the ones who kicked him out, but tries to brush it off by saying he was weak back then. Lise is amazed, knowing that Kenichi's attack nullification skill is an incredible, famous power. Hirotaka clenches his fist with excitement, declaring that his old party is now a powerful rival in this quest. Unbeknownst to them, other adventurers are whispering that Hirotaka, the one kicked out of the hero party, is now rumored to be an amazing adventurer. The rumor eventually reaches Kenichi's ears. The person who actually defeated the Demon King was none other than Hirotaka. Kenichi freezes, his mind reeling. He refuses to believe it can be true. In his memory, Hirotaka is just a useless boy with a garbage skill, someone to be thrown away. Overcome with rage, Kenichi screams at the sky, challenging the dragon to appear so he can prove his superiority. As he shouts, he looks up. Something is happening. A massive shadow suddenly falls over the valley, plunging the entire area into an eerie darkness. The other adventurers look around in confusion, one pointing a trembling finger toward the sky. A terrified adventurer gasps. It has appeared. Casting its immense shadow over everyone, the legendary beast arrives. The dragon descends, its colossal form blotting out the sun, even more terrifying and majestic than the legends. As the other adventurers freeze in terror, Hirotaka acts. He shouts for Rachel. Without hesitation, she unleashes her magic, creating a swirling vortex of wind that rushes towards the beast. Her spell hits the dragon, creating a powerful updraft to cushion its landing. Kenichi watches from the ground, stunned by the incredible display of magical power. He wonders who could cast such a powerful spell. His eyes then widen in shock as he sees a figure using the updraft to leap high into the air, soaring towards the dragon. It's Hirotaka. "I'll take that head," Hirotaka yells, his voice filled with resolve as he flies towards the beast. The dragon responds instantly, its head snapping forward as it unleashes a blinding torrent of energy from its mouth. Caught in midair, Hirotaka desperately raises his sword, calling on its power to break the mana. He is completely engulfed by the powerful blast. The force of the attack sends him hurtling back to the ground as Lise and Rachel cry out his name in horror. He sits up, covered in soot but miraculously unharmed, groaning that it really hurts. He looks down at his demon sword, confused why its special skill, Mana Break, didn't work at all. "That's because those flames aren't from magic," a familiar, smug voice explains as Gisela floats down beside him. Hirotaka looks at her, completely bewildered by her statement. As if to prove her point, the dragon unleashes another massive ball of pure, raw energy. The party leaps back as the blast hurtles towards them, and Hirotaka yells for everyone to be careful. He lands on his feet, battered but ready, his eyes fixed on the new threat. The fiery energy clears, but the dragon is gone. In its place stands a tall, muscular man with wild red hair and horns. The strange man grins, his eyes locking onto their tiny companion. He says he has finally found her. He speaks a single name, Gisela. Hirotaka stares in disbelief. The dragon just turned into a person. The dragon man stomps his foot and yells at the tiny demon king, complaining that she was incredibly difficult to find because she is so small. Gisela covers her ears and retorts that he's the one who's absurdly big, while he shouts back that men are supposed to be as big as possible. Hirotaka is completely stunned, caught between a lazy demon king and a loud, hot-headed dragon man. He turns to Gisela, the only one who might have answers, and asks if this new guy is an acquaintance of hers. She gives him a sly, knowing smile, suggesting that he should stop playing dumb and has probably already figured it out. As the dust settles, Gisela reveals his identity. He is Tristan, the demon king of wrath. The surviving adventurers murmur in terror. A second, far more dangerous demon king has appeared. Hirotaka can hardly believe it, muttering that this has to be a cruel joke. From across the battlefield, Kenichi stares up at the powerful new foe. A wild, opportunistic grin spreads across his face. The dragon is a demon king? This is the perfect chance to reclaim his fame. His mind races with the possibilities. If he can defeat this being, he will be a true hero. Tristan turns, his eyes glowing with terrifying power, and his gaze lands on Kenichi. Kenichi flinches, a bead of sweat running down his face as he feels the crushing pressure of the Demon King's aura. Tristan ignores the hero and focuses on Gisella's group, demanding to know if she has found the magic sword. Gisela casually points a thumb at Hirotaka, telling Tristan to just kill him and take it back. She drapes herself over Hirotaka's shoulders, announcing that she is quitting and giving her title to him as he furiously objects. Tristan's face is a mask of utter disbelief. His voice is dangerously low. A dark, oppressive aura begins to radiate from him, so intense that even Gisela looks on with concern. Tristan's voice is laced with disappointment. He tells her he respected her laziness, a trait befitting a demon king. He clenches his fist, his voice dropping to a deadly growl as he informs her that there is no quitting their kind. Sensing the catastrophic power about to be unleashed, Hirotaka screams a desperate warning for everyone to get down. Tristan raises a single hand, and the very sky seems to warp into a swirling vortex of pure destruction. His reptilian eye glows with malevolent light as he issues a one-word command to perish. An earth-shattering explosion of energy erupts, engulfing the entire valley. The world is consumed by a blinding white light. Everything becomes a blur as the shockwave tears across the landscape. An eerie silence follows. In the aftermath, Hirotaka pushes himself up from the scorched earth, battered and disoriented. He looks around in horror at the desolate, smoking wasteland, where the bodies of adventurers are scattered across the crater. He sees one of the fallen adventurers groan and gasps with relief that they are still alive. He then notices a soft, glowing light enveloping each of the unconscious warriors. It's a gentle, holy light, a protective spell. He knows instantly who cast it. He frantically looks for Lise, calling out her name. His heart stops. His relief turns to ice. He sees Lise, her face pale with shock, cradling the unconscious and gravely wounded form of Rachel. Liza's voice trembles as she whispers that Rachel protected her. A flashback reveals the moment of the explosion. Rachel knew they couldn't withstand it. She braced herself, cursing their powerlessness. But then, a barrier of light from Lise appeared around her. Rachel made a split-second decision, shouting that she would use all her own mana to shield Lise in return. She urged Lise to master her blessing, telling her that she was the only one who could protect everyone. She gave Lise one last confident smile, telling her she could definitely do it. Back in the present, Lise holds her fallen friend, remembering Rachel's last request to save Hirotaka. Tears stream down her face as she whispers, full of guilt, that she wasn't strong enough to protect them. Hirotaka rushes to her side, his voice full of encouragement, insisting that everyone is still alive because of her. He takes command, telling Lisa to focus on healing while he finds a way to deal with the Demon King. Wiping her tears, Lisa nods, her expression hardening with resolve. Gisela floats beside Hirotaka, her tone mocking as she asks if a mere human can truly stop an enraged Demon King. She gives him a sinister, fanged grin, telling him it's impossible unless he becomes a Demon King himself. Hirotaka glares at her, his voice shaking with anger. A menacing shadow falls over him. Tristan is standing right behind him. Hirotaka's eyes widen in absolute terror. The Demon King of Wrath speaks a single, disdainful word. Weak. He unleashes a savage punch that sends Hirotaka flying. He moves like a blur, pummeling Hirotaka again and again, roaring "weak" with every brutal blow. Hirotaka screams in agony, completely powerless to defend himself. He is smashed into the ground, broken and defeated. Tristan howls in fury, enraged that such insignificant weaklings are making him lose his composure. Gisela floats nearby, looking utterly bored by the one-sided massacre. Hirotaka coughs weakly, lying in a crater of shattered rock. The terrifying reality crashes down on him. This is the power of a true Demon King. He feels a bone-deep despair. He knows he cannot win. Tristan looms over the battlefield, sneering at the survivors, calling them trash who dare to think they matter. He opens his mouth, ready to unleash another attack and end it all. But Lise stands defiant, her small form glowing with holy light. Tristan looks at her, annoyed by her persistence. Hirotaka screams, trying to warn her. A desperate voice echoes in his mind. It's Osoro, the demon sword, begging him to make a contract. A vision of Gisela appears, her eyes wide with a crazed, hopeful glee. But another voice, gentle yet firm, cuts through the chaos. You can't! Hirotaka is stunned. The voice is Lisa's. She stands alone against the Demon King, her back to her friends. She turns her head slightly, her gaze unwavering. Tristan roars that Small Fry should die like Small Fry. He unleashes a blast of pure, dark destruction aimed straight at her. The world seems to slow down as the attack hurtles toward Lisa. Hirotaka can only watch in horror. Lisa's voice fills his mind, asking him if he remembers their first meeting. He remembers telling her that her kindness was a more powerful medicine than any magic. A vision of Lise appears before him, battered but with a beautiful, genuine smile, telling him she truly loves his kindness. She explains that if he becomes a demon king, he might not be himself anymore, and she cannot accept that. Gisela looks on, visibly irritated by Lisa's unnecessary interference. Lisa's final message rings out, a powerful, emotional vow. If he becomes a demon king, she will resent him. Hirotaka is shaken to his core. Her words stop him from making a choice he would regret. Tristan watches the exchange with utter contempt, muttering how ridiculous it is. He raises his hand. He commands them to regret their powerlessness and die, snapping his fingers to unleash a final wave of power. But at that exact moment, dozens of glowing circles of holy magic erupt across the battlefield, shielding every fallen adventurer. Lise screams, pouring all of her will into her protection spell. Her chants echo across the wasteland, a desperate symphony of protection and healing. The holy light intensifies, forming a massive barrier against Tristan's power. The memory of Rachel's confident smile flashes in her mind. The memory of her teacher's firm belief in her talent gives her strength. Lisa's eyes burn with a new, fierce light. She is no longer afraid. In her mind, she stands in the ruined hall of her childhood, finally admitting to her younger self that she always knew she had an absolute power within her. She always knew where to find it. She looks at her past self with compassion, not fear. She whispers that she was scared for so long, and she is sorry for continuing to look away. She embraces her younger self, finally accepting the power she had denied for a decade, and begs it to lend her its strength. An explosion of pure, divine light erupts from her, so bright it forces even the demon kings to shield their eyes. Both Tristan and Gisela stare in shock at the unbelievable phenomenon. The light coalesces, forming the towering, ethereal figure of a goddess. Goddess? Hirotaka whispers from the ground, his eyes wide with awe. It is the Holy Mother Chakra, manifested in the physical world, with Lise floating peacefully at its center. She prays to the merciful deity that has answered her call. Her eyes open, glowing with a sacred, sun-like pattern, as her voice echoes with a single heartfelt plea to protect everyone. The divine being, Chakra, reaches out a gentle hand over the devastated battlefield. From the scorched earth, dark tendrils of energy dissipate as the unconscious adventurers are lifted into the air. A soft, protective light envelops them completely, healing their wounds and soothing their pain. The goddess gathers all the fallen warriors into a massive sphere of pure, healing light, holding them safe. Tristan stares, his rage momentarily replaced by disbelief at the impossible sight of a divine manifestation. He growls, unable to comprehend how a mere human could summon such a being. Sitting on the ground, Hirotaka looks up, mesmerized by the holy light, and whispers how amazing it is. Lise, at the heart of the goddess, clasps her hands in prayer, begging the Holy Mother Chakra for just a little more of her power. Her face is a mask of intense concentration as she pleads for the strength to stop the Demon King's rampage. Tristan recoils in shock. Hirotaka's jaw drops in disbelief. Even Gisela looks on with wide-eyed surprise at what happens next. The goddess's eyes snap open, glowing with an otherworldly light. With surprising force, the divine being delivers a powerful blow directly to the Demon King's face. Lisa's voice, imbued with the goddess's power, echoes with newfound emotion. She declares that she is so angry, her divine power fully awakening. Her eyes, closed in concentration, snap open again. The goddess's eyes glow brightly, reflecting Lisa's own determination. Tristan roars in shock and pain. The towering goddess begins to repeatedly and rhythmically pat Tristan all over, like a parent scolding a naughty child. The mighty demon king of wrath is relentlessly patted into submission, unable to comprehend the humiliating attack. Hirotaka can only stare, completely dumbfounded, stammering Lisa's name. Tristan finally manages to grab the goddess's hand. He seethes, confused by her strange power. He roars, questioning how dare she talk so arrogantly, but the goddess's expression remains serene and unfazed. He finishes his roar, unleashing his own power against her. A wave of dark energy erupts from him, but it harmlessly dissipates against the goddess's holy aura. Tristan surrounds himself with his dark, destructive flames, roaring that she cannot kill him. The flames lash out, but the divine manifestation of chakra remains untouched, a calm beacon in a sea of darkness. Lise strains, the immense effort of maintaining the divine presence taking its toll on her. Tristan glares at her, his annoyance growing. Lise, breathing heavily, tells him that as the god of protection, chakra will render his attacks useless. She is confused when he doesn't seem angry about his attacks failing. Tristan explains that he isn't mad because she blocked him. He's mad because of her shallowness. He reveals a terrifying truth. Summoning a divine being is a forbidden technique with a terrible price. He asks if she is trying to die, knowing the act is draining her life force away. Hirotaka freezes in horror at the revelation. Lisa hangs her head, knowing the cost. She is on a timer, but she is determined. She just has to endure until Hirotaka finds an opening. Tristan's silhouette appears, a wicked grin on his face, asking whoever said his flames were only made from magic. He reveals another horrifying secret. He can create hellfire from both mana and his own body, meaning he can burn forever. He begins a new chant, calling upon a flame god to grant him the power of divine judgment. A massive, swirling sphere of black and white energy forms above him, a cosmic meteor. He boasts that this spell has enough power to destroy a mountain and challenges the guardian god to endure it. The massive meteor descends, and Lise groans, knowing her power isn't enough to stop it. Just then, Hirotaka appears beside her, fully recovered. He gives the goddess a quick, apologetic look. He yells an apology to the deity as he uses her divine form as a launchpad. He soars towards the meteor, declaring that if the attack is magic, then a god isn't needed to stop it. He screams the name of his skill, Mana Break! He swings his sword, and in a brilliant flash, he slices the catastrophic spell in half, causing it to dissipate into nothing. His eyes are filled with fierce determination. Tristan watches, completely stunned by this turn of events. He can't believe this human, this small fry, has so perfectly mastered the magic sword. Hirotaka lands beside Lise, gently scolding her for doing such reckless things by herself. Tristan's eyes narrow. He repeats the name he just heard. He recognizes the name as Japanese, which catches Hirotaka completely off guard. Hirotaka asks how he could possibly know about Japan. Tristan breaks into a wide, surprising grin, exclaiming what a surprise it is to meet a compatriot here. He spreads his arms wide and makes a shocking declaration. He is also a former Japanese person, summoned here over 100 years ago. Hirotaka exclaims in disbelief. 100 years? Tristan's grin becomes sly and dangerous, suggesting that as a fellow Japanese, Hirotaka must understand the irresistible charm of power. He then does something truly bizarre, opening his mouth impossibly wide. He begins to pull the hilt of a sword from his own throat. With a flourish, he draws a long Japanese katana, boasting that this is his magic sword, Legion. Hirotaka stares, confused. He has never seen a katana before, not even a magical one. Tristan is baffled, explaining that he comes from a far more modern Japan than Hirotaka, a time with no such weapons. He dismisses the confusing details, his focus returning to the battle. He advances, excited, having been curious for a while now about which magic sword is the strongest. One Japanese man to another, he grins, his sharp teeth on full display. Let's have a serious match. He challenges Hirotaka to a duel. His magic sword Legion versus the magic sword Osoro. The two swordsmen stand ready, facing each other across the desolate battlefield. From a distance, Kenichi watches the impossible scene. Hirotaka, standing equal to a demon king with a goddess hovering behind them. He and his one remaining party member are the only other survivors, the rest saved by Lise's magic. Kenichi trembles, sweat pouring down his face, unable to comprehend what he is seeing. His companion, terrified, tells him to run, that there's nothing they can do here. Kenichi repeats the word run, his eyes vacant. He can't run, not when he still hasn't proven his own existence. His companion looks at him with a mix of pity and frustration. He finally gives up, telling Kenichi to do whatever he wants before walking away alone. Kenichi remembers the thrill he felt when he was chosen by this world. Being chosen was supposed to be proof of his superior value, like a perfect diamond outweighing a worthless stone. So why, he wonders with dawning horror, is no one looking at him now? The duel is fierce. Hirotaka clashes with Tristan, the force of their blows shaking the ground. Hirotaka struggles to hold his ground against the Demon King's overwhelming strength. Tristan roars that there is no time to rest, his attacks becoming faster and more relentless. Suddenly, a third blade enters the fray, blocking Tristan's katana. It is Kenichi. Both Hirotaka and Tristan are surprised by his sudden intervention. Kenichi's eyes are wild and desperate as he demands the Demon King look at him. Hirotaka cries out, filled with relief that Kenichi is safe. He's amazed by the power of Kenichi's attack nullification skill and suggests they fight together. But instead of attacking Tristan, Kenichi spins and swings his sword directly at Hirotaka. Hirotaka yells in shock, barely dodging the unexpected betrayal. Kenichi's voice is cold as he says that Hirotaka is the one who should be questioned. He glares, his face contorted with rage, demanding to know why a useless incompetent is fighting the Demon King. He then points his sword at Hirotaka. His eyes gleaming with a mad desire, he demands the magic sword. Hirotaka is completely stunned. Kenichi continues, his voice filled with bitter resentment, claiming he knew Hirotaka's success was strange. He sneers, concluding it must be because of the sword, and that someone excellent like him can make better use of it. Kenichi's twisted logic echoes in his mind. He was chosen, so what right does a worthless person have to be saved? He flashes back to the moment he realized he had power in this new world. He remembers seeing Hirotaka, just an ordinary, confused person beside him. For Kenichi, this power meant one thing. It meant he had value. He snarls at Hirotaka, accusing him of acting superior with power that isn't even his own. He screams, his jealousy completely consuming him as he tells Hirotaka not to get full of himself. Hirotaka yells back, trying to reason with him that this is not the time for infighting, but Kenichi is beyond reason, shrieking that Hirotaka's calm attitude is annoying. Tristan watches, his face a mask of pure fury, growling that this idiot has interfered with a serious match between men. The Demon King's rage, once focused on one, now turns on both of them. Hirotaka realizes the situation is dire. This is bad. Kenichi just scoffs, too blinded by pride to see the danger. Tristan raises his magic katana, and Lise watches in terror as the divine presence around her fades. With a single devastating slash, Tristan's blade cuts through the divine manifestation of chakra. Lise gasps in shock as her ultimate protection is shattered. The world is once again engulfed in Tristan's destructive power. A massive fissure is carved into a distant mountain by the force of the attack. Tristan lands, his single strike having overwhelmed both god and hero. The divine light fades, and Lise stumbles, exhausted. She whispers that it can't be happening as her body gives out. She collapses to the ground, and Hirotaka screams her name in panic. He rushes to her side, fearing the worst. He breathes a sigh of relief. She is only passed out. Tristan stands over them, a cruel grin on his face, boasting that when enraged, his magic sword can cut through anything. Not even the defensive magic of a god can stop it, and neither can an attack nullification skill. A horrific, swirling vortex of dark energy has torn through Kenichi's midsection, a wound no mortal could survive. He coughs up blood, his eyes wide with disbelief as his life drains away. Hirotaka looks over at his fallen former leader, urging him to stand up, that the match isn't over. Tristan ignores the dying hero, his eyes fixed on Hirotaka, eager to continue their duel. Hirotaka doesn't look away from Kenichi, a pained expression on his face. As Kenichi fades, he stares up at Hirotaka. He rasps, asking if Hirotaka is going to finish him off. He scoffs weakly, believing Hirotaka must have secretly hated him all this time. A memory plays in his mind, a vision symbolizing his own worldview of the strong casting out the weak. His entire life has been ruled by a simple, cruel belief. He hates incompetent people. He lies on the ground, confused. Hirotaka isn't moving. He waits for the final blow, but it never comes. His eyes snap open in shock. The fatal wound in his stomach is gone. He stammers that his body is healed. Hirotaka stands before him, admitting it was his first time using the skill, but that he's glad it worked. He reveals the name of his own secret ability: immortality, attribute bestowal, explaining it was the only thing he could think of to save him. Kenichi is speechless, asking why Hirotaka saved him after everything. When Kenichi asks why, Hirotaka's answer is simple. It's because he doesn't want him to die. Kenichi stares, utterly broken by this act of pure, unconditional kindness. His entire worldview shatters in that single moment. But Tristan has lost his patience and unleashes another blast of energy. Hirotaka shouts Kenichi's name as his former leader is sent flying by the explosion. Tristan roars, infuriated by the constant interruptions to their match. He glares at the unconscious bodies of Kenichi and Lise. He calls them all trash, whose very existence was a mistake. He looks down at the injured Rachel. Hirotaka's kindness finally reaches its limit. He grips Osoro tightly and tells him to shut up. He erupts in a burst of righteous fury, roaring that self-centered people like Tristan have no right to call anyone garbage. As he yells, his left arm dissolves into black particles. His ultimate skill came at a great cost. He stares at his disintegrating arm in shock and pain. Tristan grabs Hirotaka by the head, forcing him to his knees and sneering that living for others is an excuse for losers. He calls Hirotaka's life miserable, a pathetic cycle of weaklings using each other under the false name of companions. But as he kneels in the dirt, broken and bleeding, Hirotaka realizes something profound. He was saved by them. Tristan is confused. Hirotaka explains that when he came to this world, he lost everything, but because he found companions, he was never truly lonely. He looks up, his gaze clear and strong, and declares that because he's not lonely, no matter what happens, he'll be fine. Tristan is visibly shaken. Hirotaka's words have struck a deep, forgotten chord within the centuries-old Demon King. Hirotaka's eyes begin to glow with a dark, otherworldly power. The time has come. A memory surfaces, a quiet moment when he asked Gisela how to form a contract with a magic sword. He remembers her simple answer: offer it your blood. She had explained the ritual. You must let your blood dye the entire blade, and then wish for power with all your heart. Gisela had been thrilled, thinking he was finally ready to accept his destiny. He remembers holding a knife, ready to make the choice. In that memory, he had decided against becoming a demon king, but he had made a new promise to his sword. He had apologized to the friends he would eventually betray with this act. He had sliced open his arm, letting his blood pour onto Osoro, accepting that kindness alone cannot protect those he loves. He had made a pact with the demon sword, setting a condition. When the time comes that he must discard his kindness, he wants it to make him a demon king. In the present, an immense vortex of dark energy explodes from Hirotaka. Gisela floats nearby, cackling in triumph. Contract complete, she announces with a terrifyingly joyful grin. Dark tendrils of pure demonic energy erupt from his body. He is completely consumed by the swirling darkness. The darkness writhes and takes a new shape. When the energy recedes, Hirotaka is transformed. His hair is now stark white, and demonic horns curl from his head as he wields a newly transformed Osoro. In a flash, he appears before Tristan, their swords clashing with a force that cracks the very air around them. Tristan's eyes gleam with manic excitement. This is the battle he craved. The new Hirotaka looks at him with cold, piercing eyes, his voice flat and devoid of emotion as he delivers a chilling promise. He will be returned to nothingness.